Hello, how are we doing? Welcome back to the Belgian Grand Prix weekend for what feels like the 500th time. It is the 5th time that we have been live this weekend. We did free practice. We did, of course, sprint qualifying, the sprint race qualifying itself. We've now got the Grand Prix ahead of us, the big one. It is all down to this until we get to Hungary next week, and then we have all down to that. But then we do have the summer break, which I feel like some of the drivers are absolutely desperate for at this point in the season. But we will get to that momentarily. First and foremost, as always, before the Grand Prix, we do have to look at your guys' predictions. If you haven't got your predictions in, you're a little bit late for Belgium. You can get your predictions in, though. Oh, I've left it on private. Hang on. There we go. It's now public on YouTube. Apologies. Is that fine? Is that how it works? Can I still be live and it go public? I was so confused. Thank you, Sarah, for checking in on the Twitch. It was just privatized, just talking to myself for a good few minutes. There we go. I think we're now public over on the YouTube channel. Yes. Thank you, Muffin Racker. We are there. As I was saying, we have going to start this weekend with your guys' predictions. Of course, it feels like we've been live a lot this weekend anyway, and we've had backs and forths to be currently in Manchester Airport. Where you going, Josh? Or where you coming back from? What you doing? Let me ask. But we're going to start with your guys' predictions for the Belgian Grand Prix. We had a little bit of an inkling as to what's going to happen after the sprint yesterday, but the rain has come. As ever in Spa, we know that we are open to the elements, and often the Belgian Grand Prix has its own microclimate. It has decided that now, with the Grand Prix just around the corner, it is about to start raining and the track is covered. The drivers making their way to the grid were on intermediate tyres. So we are waiting to see whether the rain continues. The cars have got the little tents over them, little marquee over each of the tents, over each of the cars. Nico Rosberg has got his umbrella out. So it's looking like there's going to be, well, at least intermediate tyres to start. Whether or not it'll get wetter or drier, we'll have to wait and see. Let's have a little look at your predictions, though. As ever, these predictions are made well before the weekend starts. So we've got the predictions coming out for the Hungarian Grand Prix tomorrow is what I was looking for, even though I just got the weirdest message ever in the chat, but there you are. But if you want to get your predictions in the chat, if you didn't manage to get your predictions involved in the community predictions, let me know your individual ones right now. The community predictions were as follows, and it was a bit of a weird mix. I'm going to sort of give it to you. And to be fair, I think some of you are already right after the sprint. Some of you not so much. And one of the predictions is really quite telling. Shall we have a little look? You've got Oscar Piastri as your winner for the Belgium Grand Prix. It was pretty close, I'm going to be fair. It was very, very close between Oscar and Lando as to who was top of the rankings. But after looking at all of the votes for first, second, and third place and culminating them together, it was Oscar Piastri who just beat Lando Norris to the victory. Max Verstappen, the third driver on the podium. And I think that podium prediction looks to be absolutely spot on. If the sprint race is anything to go by, and, well, with the rain, a bit of a curveball has been thrown. But if we look at the sprint race and we go by the pace of the cars so far this weekend, it has absolutely been those three at the front. Charles Leclerc then behind in fourth place is sort of the order of the day. But we'll have to wait and see if that plays out into the Grand Prix. It has been all weekend. As I say, the Grand Prix can always throw up a little bit of a change. I love that Yuki Tsunoda has been voted as the good surprise for the weekend, but also the driver most likely to struggle. I think that just shows how Yuki Tsunoda's season at Red Bull is going, right? There's still optimism there. There's still hope that Yuki Tsunoda will eventually fix his ability to understand that Red Bull car. And to be fair, the new floor put onto the car, a little bit more understanding inside of it. They've adjusted the setup slightly. And Yuki Tsunoda qualified much better yesterday in qualifying than he did in sprint qualifying. So they have adapted that car, and it feels like it might just a little bit be moving towards Yuki Tsunoda. And maybe in the second half of the year, we'll see the Tsunoda we were really expecting going into that Red Bull car. Although you could look at the sprint race yesterday and go, well, he was absolutely miles outside of the points, didn't really make any moves forwards, although neither did Hamilton or Russell or Antonelli, who were also outside of the points from the main four teams yesterday during the sprint. And you could say that Yuki Tsunoda has already had his struggle of the weekend. So you can kind of tick off both Yuki Tsunoda being the surprise of the weekend and Yuki Tsunoda being the struggle of the weekend, which is pretty impressive over the course. I suppose that's what sprint weekends do to you. They allow us to sort of have good and bad in the same weekend. Best team, you guys voted McLaren. Think it's going to be pretty obviously McLaren for the rest of the year now. They do seem to just have that package on lockdown. But your flop team, I think, maybe alluding a little bit to the Hamilton struggle so far this weekend. Both qualifying sessions have led to Lewis Hamilton dropping out in Q1. So maybe you're looking at that side of the garage for Ferrari as your flop team, because actually Charles Leclerc, I think, has done absolutely perfectly so far this weekend. He's done everything he possibly can. That Ferrari is clearly not as fast as the Red Bull and McLaren. So slotting into fourth place, finishing in fourth place yesterday, nearly got ahead of Lando Norris, but just had nowhere near the pace to get or to keep Lando Norris at bay during the sprint. And then again in qualifying, does the business, gets the Ferrari to where it should really be, and is starting where I expected him to. So it's an interesting one, isn't it, with the back and forth that you've got between Ferraris and how they've had good weekends and bad weekends, and they just really haven't been able to get a real string of races together. And that's maybe why some of you guys went for Ferrari as the flop team. If power unit elements are changed, like upgrades, would a penalty? Yeah, if you change you've got a set number of power unit components that you're allowed to use for the season. So you're allowed to use, I think it's 4 engines, let's say. So like ICEs, internal combustion engines, you're allowed 4 throughout the year. You can use them however you feel, as long as you only use 4. Most teams end up using 5. And that 5th one, whenever you use that 5th engine for the first time, is when you take that penalty. So that's why sometimes you see teams take that penalty earlier on in the season just so they can get that 5th one in the rotation. Sometimes you see people leave it all the way until the end of the season. Then they have to take that 5th engine, the penalty for the 5th engine, because they've run out of engines that are usable. Maybe they've crashed. Maybe they've put one in a wall. Maybe one of them ran out earlier on in the season. Didn't Cadillac sign Bottas? Not from what I have seen so far, unless I missed it this morning. But there's certainly talks there. Sergio Perez being talked about as well. Valtteri Bottas, Colton Herta, of course, and whether or not they'll try and get an IndyCar driver in there. But we have not found out yet. I feel like Cadillac will leave it a little while until we really find out what they are planning in terms of their driver lineup for next year. But they will undoubtedly be in discussions with drivers already, and would have been in discussions with drivers as soon as they were confirmed for the 2026 grid. But that is your predictions for the weekend. Do you agree with them? Can you see Oscar Piastri getting the win from where he's starting? Do you think Lando Norris has managed to turn the tide a little bit? He was the slower of the 2 McLarens up until qualifying yesterday, and he managed to get that pole position in front of his teammate. I think the Bottas video that he made, I see. Yeah, when he's in front of the Cadillac car and he's like, I like the seat. That's a nice seat. I wouldn't mind sitting in that seat. Yeah, I think it was more Bottas kind of creating a little bit of hype maybe and trying to use that as like a see how much engagement this got. If I was in your team, I'd be able to bring those many fans and this much sort of advertisement, blah, blah, blah. So I think that was Valtteri Bottas more so than Cadillac doing that. If I had to predict what was kind of going on there. But we are looking at the rain still coming down in Spa. This is where we worry, right? That like if there's too much rain, we're starting to see the blue striped full wet tires coming out. And we've only got 20 minutes until the Grand Prix gets underway. It's not going to be amazing if we have to see those blue tires. Because often when we see the blue tires, it also means that we just see the safety car. Are we getting visions of Spa 2021 all of a sudden? I really hope not. Hello, Kelly. How's it going? Ooh, Stazzy Bazzy. Thank you for the follow over on Twitch. What's my opinion on Bottas getting an Alpine? I can't see it happening, to be honest. Like, I think it would be... Oh. Valtteri Bottas being asked by Nico Rosberg there about the Cadillac rumor, and Bottas saying it is just a rumor, just a rumor. Lots of rumors going around is what Valtteri Bottas says. So there you go. I think, you know, it's looking good for Valtteri, certainly. I think Valtteri and Sergio would be an interesting driver lineup. That's the one that's kind of being mused at the moment, isn't it? Daniel Ricciardo seems to have said no, whether Cadillac even got involved. But whenever Daniel Ricciardo's been asked about it, he's always said no. So it doesn't feel like they're going to go down that route. It's then whether you go for like a full rookie or you go for someone with a little bit of experience, or you just go for two drivers with lots of experience. You know, you go Bottas and Perez, two drivers with a hell of a lot of experience, and then you just tick that box, basically. Nico Hülkenberg looking there. Of course, the strategy got him his first podium the last time out in Silverstone in these kind of conditions. He'll be looking at the weather going, well, I've done it once. Can he do it again? Imagine Nico Hülkenberg gets back-to-back podiums after waiting, what was it, 200 odd races, 250 plus races for his first ever podium. Let's grab the quali board. Bada bing. There we go. Do I think the McLarens can pull this off in the wet? I think the McLarens are better set up for the wet. That's why we saw them not quite have the straight line speed of Max Verstappen in the sprint race, right? Because they had set themselves up for the wet race a little bit more so than the other drivers out there. It was Max Verstappen who sort of gambled a bit more, went for a little bit less downforce, went for that higher speed setup, but then actually reverted in qualifying. So I think Max Verstappen made the right choice there, reverting in the second qualifying, going for a bit more downforce in the second qualifying session that we've had this weekend. It did cost him a bit of time. You know, he wasn't in the mix with the McLarens really in terms of qualifying yesterday, but it did gain him quite a bit of time in the middle sector, and will mean that hopefully we don't see a repeat of what we saw in Silverstone where he spun when the safety car came back in. I remember he was right behind Oscar Piastri and then lost the rear end of that Red Bull car. It was very un-Max Verstappen-like, but it was because they kind of took a gamble on the weather being dry in Silverstone, and it most certainly was not. And again, they kind of did that gamble for the sprint, but they couldn't quite do the gamble for the full Grand Prix because it was almost guaranteed to be raining, and it is indeed raining in Spa. All of the drivers standing at the front of the grid for the Belgian national anthem there. Of course, they have to be on the grid 16 minutes before the start of the race. We've got about 15 minutes to run until the beginning of the Grand Prix itself. Let's have a little quick look at the rundown in terms of who qualified where yesterday. It was Lando Norris to take pole position. He was at the top of the timing sheets when it counted in Q3. A real back and forth between Lando and Piastri this weekend. Feel like it could get very tense indeed. We still haven't seen the championship really ignite yet. I think that's been one thing that people have been saying about this championship battle between Lando and Oscar, is the fact that it hasn't quite come to a real head, and we haven't actually seen them side by side battling it out wheel to wheel at all really throughout this season. Most of the time when they've been racing, it's been a fairly obvious 1-2. There's been a clear driver who has the advantage, or one of the drivers sort of backing out a little bit, maybe battling with Verstappen or Leclerc instead of fighting with one another. But now they're both at the front of the grid. They're there. They've clearly got the fastest car this weekend. The conditions are difficult. I think this is going to be the first real head-to-head battle of Lando Norris versus Oscar Piastri, of course. Coming into this weekend, there was only 8 points between them. Now 9 points between them after the sprint race. So it could easily go either way. And those points will be absolutely crucial. Coming first or second, there's a 7-point swing there. So we could go into next weekend in Hungary with just a 2-point gap between the two drivers at the top of the championship. So it is very, very much up for grabs in that Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri finally, I think, will get a full run at it, because the team have basically said the Constructors' Championship is all but done, so we can let our two drivers race. We know that there's no papaya rules in play in this. Well, there's still some papaya rules in place, but they don't really need to worry about the team side of things. It is just going to be a sprint to the end of the season. Who can win the most races out of Norris and Piastri, because that McLaren car just is the quickest car. Let's not beat around the bush, can we? Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen starting behind. I feel like Leclerc is going to fall to Max Verstappen at some point. I just feel like that Ferrari hasn't quite got the pace of the Red Bull behind it, but I think if anything, to go by the sprint yesterday, we're looking at Charles Leclerc slotting into 4th place, probably running away from Albon and Russell behind, but falling foul and not quite being able to catch up to Piastri and Verstappen, who I imagine will end up being ahead of Charles Leclerc. Of course, the strategy could play into it. Maybe the fact that the rain has come will play into the Ferrari's favour. Of course, this is all just based on what we've seen so far, and we haven't seen any wet weather running for these guys this weekend at all. Yuki Tsunoda confirming the visibility he is worried about. So he mentions a rolling start there. Yuki Tsunoda, will we see a rolling start rather than a standing start, or will we just see a delay to the start of this Grand Prix? I could certainly see that happening, to be honest. I could certainly see a delay of some kind coming. But if the red flags do fly, I'll keep you updated with it. Alex Albon then starting in 5th place ahead of George Russell. George Russell said earlier on today that he's more than had enough of looking at the back of the Williams car this weekend and just being stuck behind Alex Albon. It's been quite a consistent thing for George Russell throughout this year, hasn't it? That he's just kind of been stuck behind Alex Albon at various points. You remember Monaco was the one, right, where George Russell had to just stare at the rear wing of the Williams car throughout the entire Grand Prix. And even though the Williams was going 3, 4, 5 seconds off the pace at points, George Russell was just stuck there staring at it, to the point that he eventually just cut the final chicane to get himself in front. And actually have a little bit of a run around the Monaco track at full speed, did George Russell. So I think he will be hoping and praying in 6th place that Alex Albon just shuffles out of the way fairly comfortably towards the beginning of this Grand Prix, and George Russell gets himself up, maybe can battle with Charles Leclerc. We didn't actually get to see the real pace of George Russell in the sprint yesterday because he was just in and amongst all of the traffic. So maybe he can do a little bit better. He said yesterday that the qualifying really wasn't very fun inside of that Mercedes car, but possibly because they've set it up for more of wet weather conditions. And we know that a little bit cooler because it's wetter as well, that maybe that will play into the Mercedes car's favour, and Russell will be a little bit more competitive in these conditions compared to the conditions that we've had throughout the rest of the weekend. Then behind that, a lovely RB battle, really. Tsunoda, Hadjar, and Lawson, little trio in 7th, 8th, and 9th place. We know that Tsunoda finally gets that floor upgrade and manages to sort of reset a few of the parts of that Red Bull car in his favour. Now, looking like Yuki Tsunoda has clicked at least once with this Red Bull car. Starts in 7th place. Again, he'll be sort of looking forwards rather than backwards, hopefully. But the two RB cars behind him, Hadjar and most certainly Lawson, will be looking to do anything they can to upset the Yuki Tsunoda apple cart. Interesting as well that Laurent Mekies obviously taking part in his first Grand Prix weekend as team principal for Red Bull, the second team principal they've had in their entire history. And it's actually been going pretty well, hasn't it? You know, Verstappen managed to win the sprint race, now looking very competitive for a podium in his first Grand Prix. And also, Yuki Tsunoda's had his best weekend in a very long time. When's the last time Yuki Tsunoda scored points? Was it Bahrain, possibly? It was a few Grand Prix ago that Yuki Tsunoda scored points inside of that Red Bull. It's been a long time coming, and he's starting inside of the point scoring places today. So he will be doing everything he can to give his old team principal and now new team principal once again the best start to his Red Bull campaign that they could have in the conditions and with the car where it is. Because let's face it, Max Verstappen was never likely to win this Grand Prix this weekend when the McLarens are the way that they are. Then behind, as I say, Hadjar and Lawson will both be looking to sort of show their new team principal that actually the old team principal, even though he's left and gone to the main Red Bull team, maybe I should be following him. Lawson obviously got that opportunity at the beginning of the year, has sort of slowly taken his time to get up to grips with this RB and missed a lot of the preseason testing with this RB, of course. It's taken Lawson some time to readjust, and I think fairly, because losing the car that he had and losing his position in the way that he did would have been absolutely crushing for him. But starting just behind his teammate is exactly what we want to see from Liam Lawson. Isaac Hadjar, though, has been sort of the crown of the rookies so far this year, isn't it? It is Isaac Hadjar. I mean, rookie of the season? I'm trying to think, you know, Behrman and Bortoletto have both been very good at points, but Hadjar has just been way more consistent. Kimi Antonelli's form has kind of fallen off a cliff, really. We'll get to him much, much later on down the line. So Hadjar is certainly looking like the rookie of the year so far. Ooh, Kuzlam Jojo, thank you for the super chat. Will there be rain in the race? Almost certainly. It is still raining now, and we are 6 minutes away from lights out. Well, 6 minutes at the moment, unless, of course, we get any kind of indication from race control that the rain will sort of cause any problems. In fact, I can show you the race control messages if you would like. Where is window capture? There we go. Add existing race control. There is the race control messages. Risk of rain for this F1 race is 100%. So if you ever needed confirmation that it is likely to rain during a Grand Prix, there it is. The risk of rain is 100%. And I'll pop that there just in case we do get any changes around in these last few minutes. Oh, formation lap will be started behind the safety car. As if by magic, I knew there was going to be something come up But yes, Jojo, certainly going to rain during the race. In fact, still raining at the start of the race. And it does mean that the formation lap will be started behind the safety car. And as you can see, everybody on intermediate tyres. Just before that, though, rounding out the top 10, Gabriel Bortoleto with his opportunity to score just points for just the second time in his Formula One career. He got those first 4 points on the board in Austria a couple of races ago. Now looking to get there once again. Starting inside of the top 10. I mean, it's been a very good weekend from Gabriel Bortoleto. Sort of handed a bit of a lifeline in qualifying, wasn't he, when Lewis Hamilton had his lap time deleted. And that meant Gabriel Bortoleto did make it through to Q2. And he certainly showed that he was worth that, because then he also managed to get through to Q3. Couldn't quite battle with the RBs in front of him come Q3, but a 10th place start for him is exceptionally good, considering, again, rookie season in a Stake Sauber car. I know that the Sauber has been getting better, but still a lot to do inside of that Stake Sauber car to get it into the point scoring places. Behind that, we lost Ocon, Behrman, Gasly, Hulkenberg, and Colapinto, and then Stroll, Sainz, Hamilton, Antonelli, and Alonso at the back of the grid in that order outside of the points. The sort of big ones there: Lewis Hamilton starting 18th place and Kimi Antonelli starting 19th in all of this. Just an absolutely horrendous qualifying sessions for the both of them. Neither of them having any kind of luck or any kind of consistency throughout the weekend so far. And it's going to be a very long Grand Prix from them at the back as well. DRS has been disabled. There you go. By race control, as you would imagine. Starting on the intermediate tyres, we do never have that DRS enabled anyway, but the formation lap will be started behind the safety car still. We are a couple of minutes away from the beginning of the Grand Prix. What are we thinking then? Are we going to see some racing laps fairly early on, or is this going to be a rainy start to the Grand Prix, possibly even a red flag if the rain continues to fall, and then we will all have to sit in and wait for the Grand Prix to get underway? I'd quite like this to finish, not that, I want to be elsewhere, but the Women's Euros is also, the final is later on today. I'd quite like to watch that. So if we could get it finished before like 5 o'clock, that'd be amazing. We do have the 3-hour limit, to be fair, on the Formula One races after the Canadian Grand Prix. What was that? When was the Canadian Grand Prix that just went on forever? Was that 2011? 2012? Can't remember now. The longest Grand Prix in Formula One history was just an insanely long Canadian Grand Prix that went for like 11 hours. They now have a stop clock on there so that the Grand Prix cannot go any longer than 3 hours once the checkered flag has waved. Crash at the beginning. I feel like we're not going to get too much going on at the beginning because the formation lap will be behind the safety car. And that usually points to the fact that we'll either have a delayed start or a rolling start, depending on how much grip and how much visibility the cars have got. 2011. I was right, 2011. I don't know why I thought it was 2012. I was sort of 50-50ing in my own mind as to whether it was 2011 or 2012. Weather report, still raining, unfortunately. We like a little bit of rain, but as soon as the rain gets too much, then it's sort of a sweet spot of rain when it comes to Formula One, isn't it? We want to rain a little bit to, add a little bit of drama, shuffle up the order a touch, but we don't want it to rain too much because then it is cancelled. So it is still raining at the moment. I think the most annoying thing about the fact that it's raining is not that we will get a formation lap behind the safety car or that we might get a delayed start. It's actually that we won't get to see how the tyres played out this weekend. Pirelli trying something a little bit different, splitting the strategy in terms of the tyre compounds, bringing the C1 hard compound tyre, but then skipping the C2, and the medium was the C3. So I was really interested to see how those two tyres would balance each other out, right? And effectively having a hard, soft, and super soft how you would balance using the hard and the soft tyre throughout the Grand Prix. We're not going to see any of that because everyone's going to be running the intermediate tyres. If it stays this rainy, they'll swap from inters to inters. And then if it doesn't stay this rainy, we'll swap from inters to likely the medium tyre. And we won't get to see any of the sort of drama of the hard versus medium tyre that I was hoping for. Maybe they'll try again in Hungary. I really do hope they try again in Hungary, but we'll have to wait and see. Let's switch over, though, because we are going to get underway here for the formation lap as we get to 1 minute past 2 o'clock by my timer in front of me. We're just sort of trying to gauge the visibility here because Norris is going up the hill. Can we actually see Piastri behind him is the question that we need to be asking and answering, because we have got a very, very damp Spa-Francorchamps in front of us. And all of the drivers starting from the pit lane as well, getting into position. Oh, I've got the championship up. Apologies. I was like, that's not the right order of the grid. The championship order. Wow. And the rain has literally just stopped as we say that. Formation lap is underway. The spray is quite heavy. I don't want to be the negative Nancy of this, but the spray is pretty heavy at this point. Got more drivers than ever before starting in the pit lane, which is pretty impressive. Starting procedure has been suspended, right, and a red flag. So just to highlight that at the bottom underneath the racetrack. Starting procedure suspended, red flag waved. So, what are we going to do now? I might take a seat. We've got the chair. Lando Norris saying over the radio that he is struggling to see, which is never a good thing. And the spray is pretty high. I did say it. I jinxed it. I said it. Why did I say it? I said that the spray looks pretty high, and the spray is pretty high. And now we are indeed. And now we are just going to have to wait for the start of this Grand Prix. And it's going to be a little while, I'd imagine. Is it like 2021 Spa? It's not as wet as 2021, at least. Like, that has to be said. It is certainly nowhere near as wet as 2021 because the rain has stopped and the track is not, you know, it was 2021. It was effectively a lake at this point. It's not quite that wet, but it is still red flag worthy at this point. We might as well go back to this screen. There's not a lot going on. What software am I using? This is Multiviewer. Yeah, lovely members of Multiviewer who support the channel. I think they support quite a lot of channels now, and they do offer probably, in my opinion, the best overlays that you can get. You can have it all as well. You can open this up for yourself if you have F1 TV. They don't use full wets anymore? No. No, the full wet tires effectively just extinct at this point. The problem is that even with the full wet tire, it's not the tire having grip that's the problem. It's the drivers not being able to see. Like, the visibility is so poor that unfortunately we cannot see anything. Let me just... Is this super loud if I do this? No, it's not too bad. Just popping the desk down so that I can take a little seat whilst we wait for the start of the Grand Prix. Not going to stand for this. We know that this is going to be a red flag, and we know it's going to be a good chunk of time. So I'm taking a little pew. I'll stand up once again once the Grand Prix gets underway. What's happened? Nothing too much, to be honest. We are just waiting for the rain to stop. Well, the rain has stopped, at least. It is minimal rain now coming down over the circuit. But we're going to wait for a few of the damper spots of the track to hopefully dry up a touch. And undoubtedly, we're going to see the only one in the horizontal stream chat. Possibly. I mean, most people have probably gone to make a cup of tea. So Ai Komatsu there saying we have to have 10 minutes before we get underway. Like, the race control have to give them 10 minutes notice before the Grand Prix is about to start again. And Ai Komatsu there saying, well, we from our radar think that the next lot of rain is going to come in about 10-15 minutes. So even if they said, yes, we're going to start the race in 10 minutes from now, that would then coincide with when they think the next round of rain is going to come anyway. So this could be a little while, friends. Get yourselves a nice drink. Maybe go and get a snack or two. We're going to be settling in for some interesting Lando question. Is it visibility or standing water? Visibility, the standing water is not too bad, says Lando Norris over the radio. So it is just the visibility and the fact that even Lando at the front of the grid was struggling to see behind the safety car spray. And the safety car spray is absolutely nothing compared to the spray that comes off the back of these Formula One cars with their blown diffusers at the back and the ground effect underneath the car. You get this kind of whirlwind effect underneath the car that is obviously sucking the car down to the ground, but also ejecting a lot of water up from underneath the car up into the air behind it. And when you're the car behind, you're basically just driving into a wall of water that is not only coming from the sky, but also being thrown up in front of you by the car that you're trying to follow. So, unfortunately, none of the cars have good enough visibility that they're going to be able to run at this point. But that's a good thing. The standing water not being too bad does mean that hopefully we can maybe get some sweepers out there and just get rid of the worst of where the spray is produced. And the red flag has been dropped. Still no confirmation as to what's going to happen next. As I say, keep you updated. It will be at the bottom of the screen. I've added in the red flag warning there that came through at 2 minutes past 2. So we have had 8 minutes now with no further information from the race stewards. Ai Komatsu, though, saying that they are expecting rain to be coming, well, around about now, to be honest, within the next 5, 6, 7 minutes. So the red flag, unlikely to go away anytime soon. Wet tires don't exist. They exist. They just have no use, unfortunately. Zero use whatsoever. Yeah, but visibility issues, red flag waved. And is there anything that you guys would like to go into? Do you want to have a chat about one thing or another? This is where you can just ask me anything. Bit of a Q&A maybe, just to settle in. Because we're not going to see any driving anytime soon. A Lewis miracle here in Ferrari is just so unlikely. I mean, I think the problem that he's got is he just can't get to grips with the car. Like, he can only do miracles if he's got trust in the car underneath him. You know, you look at, say, 2021 Brazil for Lewis Hamilton, where he went from last to first throughout the sprint and then the Grand Prix. The reason he was able to do that is because that Mercedes car, he had so much faith in the pace that it had, and he could trust it in every single possible corner. He could basically lean on that car. But the Ferrari that he's got at the moment, he just doesn't trust. And when you don't have faith in the car and when you don't trust it to go through the corners and you're fighting with it rather than sort of in that flow state, you know, you're not going to see those absolutely incredible runs from the back up to the front from Lewis Hamilton maybe ever again. Oh, A-wings may be used. There you go, race control message. The A-wings may be used. There you are. Not much of an update, but an update nonetheless. How long do I think Lewis will last at Ferrari? It depends how 2026 goes, I think. I think he'll be there for 2026, probably 2027 as well. And then it's a bit of a reset. I could see him calling it quits at the end of 2027. If it's still not happening, you know what I mean? If it's still really frustrating and he's not really getting anywhere and he isn't actually enjoying it anymore, I could see that being the time where Lewis Hamilton kind of calls it at the end of 2027. Although it's looking like Fernando Alonso will leave at the end of 2026 as well. That's kind of the rumors that are going around. It's looking like Alonso, you know, will try out these new cars in 2026 and then kind of go from there. So we might see Alonso leave in 2026, Hamilton then leave sort of 26, 27. We are going to slowly see some of these drivers that have been on the grid for a very, very long time start to move away, you know. Kimi Raikkonen went a couple of years ago, Sebastian Vettel the same. We are going to have a new generation of drivers coming in, you know. I feel like the longevity of Lewis and Alonso and Kimi is just utterly insane, right? It's unlike we've ever seen before. It is very, very impressive. But it does have to come to an end, you know. How many drivers have come and gone in the time that Fernando Alonso has been on the grid? Well, Alonso started in 2001, was it? 2002? His first full year. So think of how many drivers there have been on the grid that have come, gone, retired in that time. And Fernando Alonso has still remained. So it will be weird for the grids to be without him. I know he had that stint where he did have a bit of a break from Formula One, but the grid without Alonso and Hamilton is coming. And that's the way it's going to be. Do I think Lewis needs a new race engineer? No, not necessarily. I think he's just adapting, right? He's still getting used to Ferrari in lots and lots of different ways. And it's underplayed how long he was at Mercedes, for one. And then secondly, how difficult it is to adapt to a new team. It's like joining any new job. Like I'm starting a new job in September. And I have so many questions that won't be answered until I kind of arrive. And it would have been the same for Lewis Hamilton. As much as he'd have had factory tours and talked to the engineers and talked for Fred Vasseur, until you're kind of there, you don't really know. And I think that's been the same. It's kind of been what's happened to Hamilton, is until he's been there, he's now realised that actually some of the things aren't quite where he wanted him to be. Antonio, thank you for the super chat. It's been 3 years. Deserve an upgrade. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. But thank you, mate. Appreciate it that much. As if it's been 3 years. That is insane. Goodness. Never in my life expect to see Alonso last in any race at any time. Yeah, starting back at the grid. I don't think he'll be there for that long. These kind of conditions feel like Fernando Alonso's playground, don't they? What time is the racing starting? Unfortunately, we still have no indication. The red flag was dropped, as I say, at 2 minutes past 2. So 13 minutes ago now. We did get confirmation 5 minutes ago that the A-wings can be used. So it's never a great sign because all of the drivers are out of the cars still. Remember, race control does need to give the teams 10 minutes warning. So we will get a 10-minute warning when they deem the track ready for racing, or at least they think it will be ready for racing in 10 minutes time. But we still have no confirmation of that at the moment. I need to change the title. It says sprint race. Oh, sorry. I do. It does say sprint race over on Twitch. Thank you for letting me know. I forget because the Twitch one, you have to like manually update. Don't know how I missed that, but appreciate it. Thank you very much. How many people are over on Twitch? 8 viewers on Twitch. We're growing. It's a new thing. It's the first ever weekend I've been live on Twitch. How does it look? Is it okay? Got a few people joining from Twitch. There we go. It's good. Looks good. Perfect. Beautiful. Thank you very much. Welcome to the stream. We weather radar there up on the screen. Let's have a little look. I mean, 'tis rather blue at the moment, unfortunately. And you can see there's a big rain cloud that is moving to the left-hand side of the track and edging closer towards it, unfortunately. I'm in Spa. It's rainy here. Yeah, it looks it. It looks it. But it's not raining right now. Like, it's not it's drizzling, I would say. It's not like heavily raining at this point. But unfortunately, what is an awning? Is the little tents that they put over the cars. The tents that they put over the top of the cars to make sure that they don't get filled with water effectively. Imagine, well, Charles Leclerc has a lot of experience of sitting in a puddle whilst racing, but it can't be the most comfortable thing in the world, especially with these cars being open-topped like they are, you know. At least if you raced in, like, GT3, you've got a windscreen, you're covered a little bit, you get rained. Well, no, actually, you could get into the car in the garage, go out, and then hopefully come back into the garage and not get wet at all. So... Ooh. Ah, okay. Yeah, they're going through how many points they would get for each thing. So we do need to do 11 laps of the Grand Prix to get to the 25% distance. So 11 laps is what we need. 22 laps, obviously half race distance, would be a lot better because then we'd be at half points. Well, it'd be 13 for a win, 10 points for second. So hopefully we get at least 11 laps of racing, basically, to get some points on the board. If we get less than 11 laps of racing, it will be over before it started. Would love to see an Albon on the podium. I think that's the one thing we have been missing, hasn't it? It'd be really nice to see Albon on the podium at some point, you know. We've seen Ocon and Gasly pick up podiums like last year in Brazil. We've now seen Hülkenberg get a podium. I know that Alex has had podiums in the past, but not for Williams. And I feel like a Williams podium and it being Albon would just be really nice. Like, lovely and poetic, wouldn't it, for them to get a podium at some point together. Because Albon has really... Well, Albon was there before James Vowles was there. So, you know, you could see this as the Williams team under Albon has been the Williams team that we've started to see really take those steps forwards. I know the big transitional phase was when James Vowles came in, but Still, it's sort of Alex Albon's team at this point, isn't it? As much as that sounds a little bit weird to say. Albon has been there longer and been the driver that has been pushing the Williams car to higher and higher heights from, I mean, the absolutely dreadful Williams car that, for instance, George Russell had for his first 3 years in Formula One that was absolutely just horrendously slow. It is now a proper midfield running car, isn't it? And, well, currently leading the midfield in terms of the Constructors' Championship. So, what is an awning? It's just the tent that they put on top of the car. So, if you look at the cars in the pit lane right now, they've all got like a little house on them. That house is an awning, which is not a good sign, basically. They red flagged the race so that the drivers jumped out of the cars, but now they're also putting the awnings up, which just means that the cars don't get rained on directly. But it also just means that they're not expecting the rain to stop anytime soon because they're allowing the teams to put those tents up. Albon's Williams golden boy. Well, is he? Carlos Sainz was supposed to be. Carlos Sainz has brought the money with him, but yeah, I suppose Alex Albon's still delivering the points at this juncture of the season. How will it be in 2026 though? Because Carlos Sainz has already started making a little bit of fighting talk about 2026 and wanting to get there. I'm not reading Twitch chat. I'm reading all the chat. The problem is Twitch chat and YouTube chat are mixed in with one another, so sometimes you got to be quick if you want to grab my attention. When does it start? Unfortunately, we don't know. We are waiting. Is awning a Britishism? I thought it was a common term. Maybe it is. Is it? I suppose it looks like a little bit of a gazebo, more so than an awning. It's like a big umbrella. An umbrella with legs. But then, you know. Who wins the championship, in my opinion? Way too early to tell. Like, so tight between Norris and Piastri. Obviously, if you extrapolate out what's happened so far this season, you'd go Piastri. But I don't think we can really judge. I think it's going to go all the way down to the final Grand Prix, and it's going to be which driver is in the better position going into the final race in Abu Dhabi. Can I explain what A-wings are? A-wings? Are you reading awnings wrong? I have seen the A-wings thing pop up in the chat, but I don't know what an A-wing is. Are you referring to this? What's my favorite car? Like race car? I mean, it's got to be the McLaren MP4/4, right? Can't be any other really. I said A-wings are available to use. Sure I didn't say awnings? Maybe I said A-wings. I probably meant awnings. Awnings. The word awning is used in Australia as well. Well, there you go. Awning is awning. And that makes enough sense for me. But we are shuffled in and ready to go. I'm just checking everything is still up and running and working. Looks like it. We're still waiting for that 10 minutes. And we are yawning. Yeah, it's getting towards that. I said A-wing. Apologies. If I said A-wing, I didn't mean A-wing. Maybe I read it as A-wing. I think I meant to say awning. It's done now. The awnings are up. We're still not racing. We're arguing about tents. It's intense. Do I make any money from content creation? Yes and no. So yes, I get paid ad revenue and things like that, and I've been paid by a few sponsorships and brands and various bits and pieces. Like I did a thing with EA earlier on in the year, and things like that for the F1 game. But I never take any of that money. So all of that money goes like into a pot. I have a bank account specifically for that money, and I never sort of take anything out of that. So everything that I get from the channel and everything that I get from like members subscriptions and super chats and ad revenue, that all goes into a pot, and that is separate to what I live off of. So it all goes back into this, right? It all goes like lights and cameras. And if you go back and watch a stream from like 3 years ago versus now, hopefully you'll see the kind of steps it has taken from 3 years ago, when I first started doing this, to now. Like I used to do this championship and like driver standings. It wasn't automated. I used to do it like in Photoshop as it was happening. So like if a driver swapped positions, I would physically on the side of the screen swap the two drivers around. And like that's where we started. I would have to drag and drop one driver on top of another, and when like if two drivers crashed into one another, and then say like Piastri crashed out and dropped all the way to the bottom, it would then be a frenzy of me trying to shuffle every single name of every single driver up a position so that I could drop Piastri all the way down to the bottom. Like, it was absolute chaos. There'll be people in the chat that will remember the ridiculousness that the streams used to be. But yeah, that's how it works, really. Do I like Liam Lawson? Yeah, I think he's all right. He's quite nice. I think as a personality, I quite like him. As a driver, I think he can be a bit over the top, maybe a little overzealous sometimes. Particularly this year, we've seen him in a few incidents and have a few crashes that I don't think were particularly necessary, I would say. But yeah, I like Liam Lawson. I think Liam Lawson's a very nice driver. Shame that he didn't really get the run at Red Bull I think he deserved. Although for me, I was always saying that I think Yuki Tsunoda was the better choice for the start of the year anyway. So I was a bit skeptical when I did see the fact Yuki Tsunoda was chosen. No, Liam Lawson was chosen ahead of Yuki Tsunoda to begin with. I was a little bit skeptical, but I think, that's the way it has played out, and eventually Yuki Tsunoda's been able to get into that seat, and Liam Lawson's been slotted back into the sister team. I think Lawson now will be looking for an exit strategy. I think Lawson will be a little bit gutted that he didn't take the opportunity to jump ship, because there was a lot of talks about, well, when Andreas Seidel was leading the Audi project rather than Matteo Binotto, there was a lot of talk about Liam Lawson possibly getting a Sauber seat for this year, and almost being where Gabriel Bortoleto is now. So it could have been Hulkenberg and Lawson in the Stake Sauber team for this year, and that's what they were planning on originally, until Liam Lawson then in September did get to replace Daniel Ricciardo. Had he not, and maybe Daniel Ricciardo had done a bit better, and maybe the RB team hadn't wanted to get rid of Daniel Ricciardo when they did, Liam Lawson could be in a Stake Sauber seat right now. And we'd have never seen, the two races beside Verstappen and things along that line. So just goes to show those little things, the tiny margins can play in your favor or against you. And you don't really know whether they're playing in your favor or against you until they've happened. So I like Liam. I think it's just a shame things played out the way that they did for him. And to not really his fault in any way. It's just Red Bull was an absolute calamity behind the scenes, wasn't it? As seen by the fact that everyone has now left and Christian Horner has also been fired. Like, everything went wrong and has been wrong and now is over and done with. When will it start? Rain update. It is still drizzling. So the rain hasn't completely stopped, but also is nowhere near as heavy as it was sort of 20 minutes ago. Well, half an hour ago now, when we should have started the Grand Prix. Been half an hour since we've had any kind of update from race control, apart from the awning, the controversy at that point. Oh. Just having a little listen. Talking about the intermediate tyres. So, yeah, likely the intermediate tyre to be the choice of tyre. Talking about whether or not they've got enough intermediate tyres. And I think they should have. What happened to Hamilton? Just messed up, well, both qualifyings this weekend. Spun in Q1 during the sprint qualifying and then also had a lap deleted for crossing the white line at turn 4 in the second qualifying session of the weekend. So starts from 18th place, really. There's not too much more of it. But yeah, still no update on the start, unfortunately. It is still starting. It is still raining a little bit. And, Nico Rosberg stepping in to just talk about the frustrations of waiting as a driver at this point, knowing that the conditions are not really changing. They're going to be tricky whenever you get out on track, but certainly very tricky right now. Will Piastri move next season after being in Lando's shadow? No, neither of the McLaren guys will move realistically. What's my opinion about should F1 be back in India? I mean, I enjoyed the Indian Grand Prix for what it was, but it was never a huge success. Well, it never made enough money for it to be sustainable, was the problem. So they needed more backing, and then the government decided it wasn't worth the time and the money. Then they tried to charge Formula One more for the use of the track, effectively. And that's why it all fell apart in India. So unfortunately, in Formula One, like a lot of things, it wasn't really down to the racing or the track or Formula One. It was more down to the money and the finance side of things, with India trying to get a little bit more out of Formula One and Formula One not really wanting to pay India that much more because they weren't gaining it back. So decided to split ways. Yeah, the government seemed to be the problem. And Ollie Behrman just waiting for the rain to subside. As he's just said that, the rain is on the radar at the moment, and it is still raining. So it is still raining, but we're waiting at this point. Have I watched the F1 movie yet? I haven't, no. I've seen a lot about it. The problem was, each time I've gone to the cinema to watch it, there's been like an issue. One of them my fault, I will, say. The first time I went to go and see it, I booked the tickets online, and I don't blame myself for this. So View, which is the cinema that we decided to go to, on their website, you can, choose where you're going to watch the film, and then you watch the film, and blah, blah, blah. And because I was sort of looking at timings for it and try and sort of work out how and when it would work, and I wanted my girlfriend to come with me and things like that. So I was waiting for that to kind of happen, and I'd clicked on Norwich, which watch where I'm from to begin with. But then I think, I didn't close the tab, but I went to a different tab and kind of came back to it later. And when you reset the tab, for some reason, it then reset the location. So instead of booking tickets for the Formula One movie in Norwich, I booked tickets for the Formula One movie in like somewhere else. It was like something beginning with A. It like reset to the first location on the list. And then I didn't notice that it had reset the location, and I booked the tickets. It was still the same screen and the same time was the problem as well. It was my fault. But I booked the tickets for the wrong place. So I turned up to view, and they were like, yeah, this isn't that cinema. And they could not accept the tickets, even though the film was at the same time in the same screen. I'd paid the same amount of money. They're not allowed to just accept that ticket. So we watched 28 Years Later instead, which I would recommend. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very, very good. It was very unlike the F1 movie, I would imagine. But 28 Years Later was very, very good. And then the next time I went to go and see it, again, I was sort of with some friends, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll go and see this. But instead, we ended up going to see this the new Jurassic Park thing. So that was, a team vote. And unfortunately, I was outvoted at that point. So I still have yet to see the Formula One movie. Oh, big super chats. Whoa. $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Sebastian. Legend. Do I think Alex Albon will get... Oh, no. It's cut off. A podium today. Of the midfield drivers, he's starting the closest to it. As we said before, I think it would be poetic for Alex Albon to get a podium at some point with Williams, whether it's today and he does like a full George Russell. George Russell was the last driver to get a podium for Williams, and it was here in Spa in 2021. Problem is, Albon hasn't qualified inside of the top three. So we do need at least a little bit of racing for Albon to be able to get up into the top three. What would be perfect for Albon, really, is we do exactly 11 laps of racing. In that time, Leclerc, Piastri, Norris, someone like that spins and takes out another one. Albon just creeps up into third place, and then another red flag, and then it's cancelled and we're done. Because then we still get points, and he would still get that podium place. But yeah, it would only have to do 11 laps worth of racing. So wouldn't have to really fight with, Norris, Piastri, Leclerc, Verstappen for that podium position. So that would be the perfect scenario for Alex Albon in all of this. Because he then gets the podium trophy. The points don't really mean that much to him this season, let's face it. He's kind of slotting into where he is going to be in the championship. But I think Alex Albon getting a podium for Williams, I think it would be better if he got it in 2026. Even if it's not on pace necessarily, but, he gets that podium in 2026, that would be absolutely incredible. And so good, for Williams and for Albon and for everyone involved. I think that would just be the perfect culmination of this era of Williams that we've had from 2021 through to now. Actually, would it be better if he got it this year? Because then it's within this regulation cycle. And it kind of shows that Albon came in, restructured the team around him, was like, I'm going to be the main guy. Latifi, step aside, Sargent, get out. It's kind of made it his own, and then culminated with 2025, the end of this regulation cycle, the best year that they've had in Formula One in a very long time, and a podium from Albon. I've kind of talked myself into it. I think Albon needs to get a podium this year, and that would be perfect. It'd be a beautiful way to sort of wrap a little bow around this regulation cycle for Williams. Why aren't they going full wets, or are they not a thing anymore? They are a thing, but the problem is not grip, it's visibility. So the full wet tyre are brilliant in terms of the fact that they add additional grip and they allow the car to displace more water than the intermediate tyre. So they allow you to have more grip underneath you inside of the car. But they also produce a lot of spray. And the problem is the spray, when there's a lot of water on the track, each of the cars just flicks the water up. So underneath the car, we know that they're ground effect cars this year. So there's a lot of turbulent air underneath the car, and then also through the diffuser at the back of the car as well. And what that does is effectively creates these whirlwinds, which then shoot the water up into the air behind the car. You get this kind of rooster tail of water that is shot up behind the cars. And then if you're the car behind that, so, you know, Lando Norris at the front, he's shooting up this tail of water from underneath his car. If you're Oscar Piastri driving into that, you're effectively just driving into a wall of water. And there is no visibility there whatsoever. So it's not that Oscar Piastri hasn't got the grip to be able to go around the track behind Lando Norris. It's the fact that Oscar Piastri can't see the track behind Lando Norris, and therefore, unfortunately, we can't really race in these conditions, and they are the conditions that the wet weather tyre is designed for. So the wet weather tyre can't be used because the drivability of the track under the conditions that they're useful for, they don't work because of the visibility side of things. When does the race start? And still nothing, unfortunately. As you can see at the bottom there, the last message that we got from race control was at 14:09 race time, and it was that awnings may be used. We have heard nothing since, and we know that we're going to get a 10-minute warning from race control if we do get back underway anyway. So we are just waiting for that 10-minute warning from race control. Hit subscribe. I think everyone should hit subscribe. That is a great comment to make, and certainly something that I can get behind. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. On our way to 130,000 subscribers, which seems ridiculous. If you are also new to the channel and you want to go over and follow on Twitch, I'm setting the goal as 1,000 followers before the end of the season on Twitch. I think we can get 1,000 followers on Twitch, especially because I'm going to be doing some extra Twitch streams here and there. So I think 1,000 followers on Twitch would be the goal. We currently have, I think, 600, but this is a Twitch channel that I've had forever. Like when I first made a Twitch account, this is the channel I had. So the followers have come from various different means, and therefore I think 600 is a little bit of an inflated number. I think a lot of those people have forgotten who I am. But yeah, hit subscribe, hit follow. That'd be absolutely lovely. Seriously bored right now? Yeah, well, there's not a lot going on. There's not a lot going on. I feel bad for people who are there. Yeah, it's got to be... They're keeping in high spirits, to be fair. Whenever the camera does cut to them, they are dancing around and waving their arms in the air. Just hopefully, I think just trying to wave the clouds on. Just moving the clouds on, trying not to get the rain coming down once again. The rain has stopped, though. Red flag has unfortunately not been taken down, and there is no warning from race control as it stands. So once it's not rain, the problem is it's still raining a little bit as well. The frustration is that whenever it sort of slows in terms of the rain, it never stops. Like, it never fully stops at any point on the track. So we still have a little bit of rain going down. Clarity on pit lane starts, please. I mean, it just means that they start from inside of the pit lane. So normally at the start of the race, you start on the grid wherever you've qualified. So you'll see Lando Norris's car at the front. There's a white line which sort of represents the beginning of the race, and Lando Norris will be the closest to that white line. If you start in the pit lane, you have to wait for all of the cars on the grid to have gone past that line before you can then come out of the pits. So you're starting inside of the pit lane and effectively then starting last as well. Well, not just last, but you're also starting last and a bit, because you lose that time where you've got to come out of the pit lane after everybody else has already gone past. Hope the race starts soon. It will at least be another 15 to 20 minutes, I would say, because we still haven't got that 10-minute warning yet from the race control stewards. And therefore, it's going to be at least 10 minutes from that point. And it is still raining a little bit at this point as well. So it's going to be a little while, unfortunately. Ayrton Senna would be turning in his grave. He loves these conditions. It's very true, actually, yeah. He absolutely thrived in these kind of conditions, didn't he? He'd have lapped the whole field twice. Hamilton needs to retire. Why is Hamilton 18th? Just because of qualifying. He qualified poorly yesterday. And then also, yeah, made some adaptations to that Ferrari car, so then went further back. So qualified in 16th, but would have been starting from the pit lane as well. So a lot of the cars that qualified towards the rear end of the grid decided to make changes. My friend told me she's going to sleep through the first half because it's been delayed anyway. I mean, to be fair, we would be about halfway through the race at this point. Where have we been? 47 minutes. Probably been over halfway through the race at this point, had it started. But unfortunately, it has been 47 minutes of waiting. Anonymous became a member of the channel. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate that. I mean, there is, for those of you that are members of the channel, an exclusive post-race stream that we do after every single Grand Prix, where we talk about what's happened during the race. I don't know if that will still be going ahead, but thank you for becoming a member. And certainly for Hungary, you will get that post-race stream. Well, unless Hungary is the same conditions as these, because not sure we need to do a post-race stream at this point. There hasn't been a race at this moment. But thank you for becoming a channel member. If you do want to become a channel member, it massively supports the channel. And as we talked about a little bit earlier on, all of that money does go back into making the channel better. And yeah, you can join the Discord. You can join the Discord. I keep forgetting, what are the perks? Channel members, you get post-race stream, you get access to the Discord, and you only have to become a member once, and then you can join the Discord forever. Although it is an ongoing perk. So, you know, be nice if you stuck around. But you can, technically, just become a member once, join the Discord, and then have access to it forever. Alongside that, yeah, as I say, post-race streams, additional streams throughout the summer break as well. You need to ask about the Discord. You can't work it out. Message me about it later, Kelly. We'll try and sort it out for you. Any updates? When is it starting? As I say, keep your eyes on the bottom of the screen. That's the most recent control message that we've had, or message from race control we've had. If we look at the ones beforehand, we had starting procedure suspended. That was at 2:01. Then we had the red flag, 2:01, and then 2:09. Awnings may be used. So we are still under red flag conditions, and the awnings are still allowed to be used. GameStar, thank you for the super chat. Race should start behind safety car. Way better way to clear water. I think they will as soon as the conditions are just. They usually do, don't they? Sort of do at least a few laps behind the safety car to try and just displace as much water as possible, because as much as there are tractors and so on out on track right now, sweeping various bits of the track, we need 20 cars running around there. That'll displace the water pretty swift. Top 5 predictions. Ooh, top 5 is an interesting one as well, because I think the top 4 will be how they are. Oh, actually, that is not true. I think Norris and Piastri could be either way around. I think Verstappen will be 3rd, and I think Charles Leclerc will be 4th. So I think if I had to pick a winner, I think Piastri, I don't know, though, because Lando Norris kind of turned it around in qualifying yesterday. Piastri's been the better of the two so far this weekend, and was the better of the two in Silverstone, where the conditions were similar. So I would say Piastri is likely to have the better pace. But that's just me. Maybe you disagree. Lando Norris could go on to win this race, though. I don't think it's unfathomable that either of the McLarens do end up winning this. Charles Leclerc, though, I think will lose out to Max Verstappen, not just because of the conditions, but also because Max Verstappen has looked a lot quicker this weekend, and the Ferrari just isn't quite at the level of those top 3 cars. But then we get to Albon, don't we? Then we get to Albon. Will he be able to hold on to that 5th place finish? George Russell behind in 6th place will want to displace Albon as quickly as humanly possible. Because he's had more than enough of looking at the back of a Williams in the last few weekends. Do I back Albon to hold on to it, though? I don't know if I do. I just think that the Mercedes, George Russell's had a really good start to the year. You know, I'd love Albon to hold on to 5th place, but if I'm actually doing my predictions, George Russell will get 5th. Yuki Tsunoda, though, maybe. I reckon Albon could hold off Yuki Tsunoda, especially if Yuki Tsunoda's not quite with it in these kind of conditions. You know, it's all well and good Yuki Tsunoda adapting the floor and getting the best of it in dry conditions in qualifying. It's a different job getting to grips with a new car in the wet weather conditions. As we saw last time out in Silverstone, where almost every single rookie just put themselves in the wall and decided that they'd had enough of that race. Here we are then. 53 minutes after the race should have started. And still no word at all. Do I think the race will be cancelled? I'd like to say no, because we are expecting this rain to come to an end. Like, if we're looking at the weather forecast, the sun should be shining fairly soon. In fact, those fans, there's a little bit of sunshine on them. So, but then you can see the other sands at the other end of the track are still very, very wet indeed, and just getting wetter. So I'd like to say no, it won't be cancelled, but don't shoot me if it is. Love your content, fan from the Philippines. Thank you, Yom. One of those two, maybe. But thank you, mate. Appreciate that. Dumb question from someone from the 90s. That's me, Kelly. Don't worry. Message how? Instagram, Twitter. I sometimes check Twitter. I don't really check any of those. There should be a link to the Discord just in the members' notes. Like when you become a member on the channel, it should be one of the first things you get kind of clicked through. But yeah, message me on Instagram. We'll go that way. I'll check Instagram after the race. Where do I think Carlos will end up? What do you mean? Like at the end of his career? Lord only knows. He's been at so many teams already as Carlos. That's the thing. To be fair, I don't think anyone expected him to leave Ferrari anytime soon. Even him leaving Ferrari came as a surprise even to him. So he's been at Renault. He's been at McLaren. He's obviously been part of the Red Bull stable in that second Red Bull seat. I could see Carlos doing a stint at Audi, later in his career. I know that was a big, discussion point about going into next season and whether or not he might go to Audi. But I still think that there's probably a relationship there. And I think that he could end up doing a stint at Audi. I could see him doing, going back to McLaren maybe. If, could I see him? I was just trying to think then. Lando would have to go somewhere. But I was going to say, I could see him going back to McLaren, right at the end of his career. But then I suppose it depends how competitive the McLaren is and where the seats are available. I could also see him going back to Ferrari. But the problem is they've got Ollie Behrman. So it would be replacing, if Ollie Behrman was horrendously slow or something, and Ferrari needed, a quick fix, which I can't imagine. So I think Carlos has still got really good connections with a lot of the grid, is the thing. Sorry, I'm late. What did I miss? Ooh, who's going to let him know that we have seen no racing whatsoever? Ooh, we're getting sectors clear, though. Track clear. Confirmed. Track clear, track clear. Double waved yellows in sector 16. But track clear in sector 7. Track clear in sector 4. Track clear in sector 1. Ooh. We're getting movement. We're getting movement. The awnings are coming down, ladies and gentlemen. We still have no confirmation as to when it will happen, though. And as I said, they do need to give us, and the teams, a 10-minute warning as to when the race is going to get underway. But we are seeing the awnings coming down. We are seeing a little bit of life when it comes to the race director notes. There is now double waved yellows in sector 6 and sector 5. But we've got movement. We have got movement. It's only been 58 minutes. Track clear in sector 16. Okay. I can show you. We've still got a couple of sectors. So the red flag has gone. The yellow flag is now being waved, as you can see at the top there. So the majority of the rain is still coming down between turns 2 and 5. So along that kind of main straight, if you will, up the hill through Eau Rouge. But we have got movement. I'm just trying to see if there's any other race control updates or anything that I can see on the driver radios. I don't think any of the drivers have their helmets on yet. So there's nothing coming through on the driver radios at the moment. But we're waiting. We will see. That is where we're at, though. Do I have a time that we will start? Not yet. Not yet. But we have not started the race yet. So also the 2-hour timer has not started either. So the race hasn't started. The timer hasn't started yet, which does mean we could get going and we could have up to 3 hours of racing. So we're allowed to have up to 3 hours of racing with an hour stop. But technically, because the race hasn't started, this hour that we've lost between 2 and 3 o'clock means that there was no start to the race. This is the same as Belgium 2021, isn't it? Yeah, unfortunately, well, it's similar. Very similar in that we are just waiting for the rain to move more than anything else. Oh, you redeemed a highlighted message. That's pretty cool. I have no idea what kind of things are available over on Twitch, but a highlighted message is one of them. Look at that. So it's possible for the race to start at 5 and end at 7? Yeah, exactly. We have not started the race timer yet. So as long as... The problem that we also have is that there are no lights that are Formula 1 capable, I don't think. Or Formula 1... No, I'm looking for a word. Regulatory. So if it does get dark, then the race will also end, unfortunately. So... we could see a race go as late as you like, as long as the visibility is still there. That's the problem we've got right now, is visibility because of rain. We don't want that to turn into visibility because it's dark now. But grab your snacks. We're getting there. Just moved from the YouTube stream. I don't know whether this is a good idea. Should I be promoting Twitch? Is it taking away the viewers from the YouTube stream? Maybe. But we are... I'd like the Twitch to get a little bit bigger. So yeah, not everyone, some people, maybe just have both open. Does that work? Do I get double the money if you have both streams open? Probably not. But the medical car is going around. There's still quite a lot of spray from the medical car. It's through that sector of track. Sort of again down that straight towards turn 5. Oh, they're starting to wave the yellow flags in other sectors now. It's not going well. They've started waving the yellow flags in sector 12 and 13 now also. So you can see the yellow bands around the track are where they think there's possible issues. So 2, 3, 4 up to 5 through 6 and 7 as well. So that whole kind of back straight that we have at the top of the picture there is where they think there is a little bit too much water for racing at this moment. And then through now turn 10, 11, 12 and 13 as well. So through the middle sector of the track. The rain has kind of been coming from that direction though. So hopefully the medical car going around will prove that they are wrong. There you go. Oh, green flag, sector 7. So turn 5, 6, 7 are now okay. And this is the thing. We're just going to see yellow flags sort of coming and going as the medical car adjourns them as good enough to race or not quite ready to race and things like that. What are my thoughts on Carlos being the last Ferrari race winner? Hilarious. I mean, it's just because they haven't won a race this year, right? Carlos hasn't been at Williams for that long. It's been 12 races. If he is the last Ferrari race winner in like 2027, then we need to start sort of, you know, sounding the alarm bells a bit. But at the moment, Ferrari have not yet gone a season without a win. So they'll be okay. What would happen if the race doesn't happen? How does the podium work? Unfortunately, no points would be awarded. They need to have completed at least 25% of the laps, which works out quite nicely because there's 44 laps of Spa. So they need to do 11 laps for there to be points awarded. The medical car has actually just come to a stop now and has slotted in. We are getting green flags in a few of those sectors we talked about beforehand. Still, the straight at the top of the hill is the main area of concern, but you can see that the yellow flags have now gone from turn 11, 12 and 13. Turn 10 also has now been cleared, which is sector 11 of the track. So literally just that top straight that we can see on our picture is where they think the issue is. As I say that, another yellow flag is waved in sector 16 just before turn 16 on the picture as well. An Alonso shirt on now. just for the support. 20th to 1st, Alonso. Doable. The reason I put on my McLaren merch is because I wore the race will resume at 16:20 local time. We have movement. That is our 10-minute warning. 10-minute warning. Well, it's 15 minutes, actually. 15-minute warning. But 15 minutes, the race will resume at 4:20. 4:20, eh? It's not the Dutch Grand Prix. But yes, we have got confirmation. 15 minutes time, we will actually see some racing. It's happening. It is going to happen. Thank you all for sticking with us. We've got 492 people watching at YouTube. Have we all hit the like button? I think that's the thing. Have we hit the like button? Have we subscribed to the channel? You know, we've got 15 minutes to get that done. But the race will resume at 4:20. Oops. I'll show you that one instead. Race will resume at 4:20. Am I excited for the Dutch Grand Prix? I am excited for the Dutch Grand Prix. I'm excited for all Grand Prix. I just want to see cars going around. We're seeing drivers finally getting their racing suits back on. People actually moving inside of the garages. They need to cut the amount of laps. They don't cut the amount of laps. They just go for 2 hours worth of racing. So the racing time can last no longer than 2 hours. There can be an hour intervention though. So there is a 3-hour kind of gap. So once the race starts, it has to finish within 3 hours of that. So yeah, it's just however many laps they can do within the time limit is how it works. But yeah, they should be fine in terms of daylight is the other thing that we have to take into account. Yellow flags and green flags still being waved in various sectors, but we still have the race will resume at 4:20. Woo. What's my favorite Grand Prix track? I just get to point at the wall, which is nice. This one. Starting in 13 minutes. It is indeed. The race will begin just down here. No, wrong hand. It's difficult because it's mirrored. The resume at 4:20. 4:20. But yeah, the reason I'm wearing the McLaren top is because I have worn the Red Bull top for one session this weekend. Just the one session. Guess what session that was? It was the sprint race. Guess who won the sprint race? Max Verstappen. So, if I wear the McLaren top, the McLarens win. If I wear the Red Bull top, the Red Bull wins. So I've swapped it back. I'll never be wearing that Red Bull top ever again. I wore it once, and Max Verstappen won that session. Not what I wanted. We're back to McLaren tops only. Imagine Hulkenberg managed to get into a decent points position. Certainly not off the cards, considering how well he drove in Silverstone last time out, and the fact that he scored points in every single race since Spain. So he is 4 in a row. Could he make it 5? Most certainly. Why not? Please wear a Ferrari one. Don't know if that's how it works. I don't have any Ferrari merchandise, I don't think. Might have a top or something somewhere, but not one that jumps to mind. Can I give a recap on what's happened till now? Sure. About an hour and 30 minutes ago, we heard the Belgian national anthem. The drivers all stood at the front of the grid. It was raining, but they all got in their cars anyway. We had one lap behind the safety car as the formation lap, and then there was a red flag. Then there was an hour and 10 minutes until now. What has happened in that hour and 10 minutes? I cannot remember. We've had a lovely time. We've chatted about all number of things. I've rambled on and tried to keep people's attention in this world of attention-grabbing shorts that you could go and watch. I've tried my best. But we are almost ready to race. We have got another 10 minutes until we are likely to get underway. We are seeing cars actually moving a little bit. The engineers are pushing them back into the correct positions. The awnings are now gone. We're seeing drivers actually put their race suits on. Helmets are going on to drivers. That's what we like to see. I look like Piastri. I'll take it. I think it's just the hair. The hair needs a cut, doesn't it? It's been an ongoing issue. The problem is I just haven't had the time. I need to find a new barber's because now I've moved house. I really don't fancy sort of driving 45 minutes to go and get my hair cut. So if anyone has any suggestions for like good barbers in Norwich, you know, on the off chance, let me know. Drivers are jumping in. Exactly. We are seeing actual drivers in actual cars. It has stopped raining and we are waiting to see who and where and when. And Zach Brown being asked about Christian Horner. I mean, Zach Brown is not a fan of Christian Horner, so unfortunately, I don't think he's the best man to ask about who and where and when. Christian Horner should have been gotten rid of, but I think if Zach Brown was in charge, he'd have gotten rid of Christian Horner a very long time ago. Where do I think Carlos will be after the race? What do you mean, in terms of position? He's starting 17th. It's not going to be a fun one. He'd be doing very, very well indeed to get anywhere near the points. But I don't think that's going to happen. Do you think that F1 will ever come to South Africa? Kalami still gets talked about, doesn't it? Still, like, whether or not the Kalami Grand Prix will ever happen. It gets talked about and then it kind of gets shelved again. And especially because they keep adding different tracks to the calendar. Like, next year we're in Madrid. Madrid is the Spanish city I was looking for. We're in Madrid, so like that's been added to the calendar. We've always had Miami and Vegas come in recent years, so they are still adding tracks to the calendar. But as much as Kalami gets talked about, it never seems to be the one that they ever really go for. So I hope so, but until it's sort of fully confirmed in one way or another, I'm not sure. Opinion on Kimi, a brilliant start to the year. Kind of fallen away a little bit, hasn't it, over the last 5 or 6 races. I think he's one of the drivers that really does need the summer break. I think it's sort of taken a toll on Kimi, like 12 Grand Prix, so many Grand Prix in such a small amount of time as well. So I think Kimi just really needs the summer break. He needs a bit of a rest, bless him. He's probably absolutely exhausted, and reasonably so. Like, I think the other side of things that we don't think about when it comes to Formula One as often is just like the fatigue on the body because of all these different races, all these different time zones. What's it been? 12 races in something like 18 weeks. So there's not really been any opportunity for any of the drivers to really reset. You could argue the couple of weeks that we've had since Silverstone maybe, but there's not really been an opportunity for any of the rookies to take a sigh of relief. It's been full on this Formula One calendar. And I think that's showing with a couple of the rookies are kind of taking that in their stride. You could kind of say, well, Bortoleto and Behrman have started to look even better as they've got more used to the car and as they've settled into Formula One a bit. But I think on the flip side of that, we're seeing sort of Antonelli and even some of the more experienced drivers actually just hit a little bit of a wall of fatigue. So I like Kimi. I think he's very good. I think he needs the summer break. I think Who do I... How do I think about Norris winning? I would love it. I'd be fine with it. Piastri or Norris for me is a win. I'd love to see a little bit of a battle though between the two of them. Can Hulkenberg perform his magic again? P14 to P2. Certainly doable. Certainly doable. Piastri or Norris? I think that is the question now, isn't it? With 5 minutes left to go, who do we think is going to get there? Piastri or Norris? We could have a little bit of a rundown. Shall we take a stand? I don't know if you can hear that. Like the desk rising itself up. And me not so much yet. Let's shuffle over. Oh. Information we have. Minimum of 2 laps behind the safety car. 2 laps behind the safety car. Then they'll call it. So race control will start behind the safety car in a couple of minutes' time. And Kimi Antonelli has been told there will be at least 2 laps behind the safety car. So 2 laps behind the safety car guaranteed. Then they will try and get a little bit of a gauge on whether or not they should start the Grand Prix. I'm losing my words now. We've been live for nearly 2 hours at this point. We haven't seen a car yet. Why am I wearing McLaren? I'm a McLaren boy, McLaren fan. Always will be. Where do I think Yuki will finish? 6th at best. And that's only if he gets in front of Albon, in my opinion. 6th at best. At worst. Well, it could be bad, couldn't it? You know. Especially considering the conditions. But yeah, we're going to get at least 2 laps behind the safety car. But then we could still get 42 laps of racing. You never know. Maybe they'll be happy with it once we've done those couple of laps behind the safety car. And we'll get a full 42 laps of Grand Prix racing in these kind of mixed weather conditions. The rain has stopped. And there doesn't look to be any more rain coming, looking at the radar that I can see. So by the time we get to starting, by the time we've done a couple of laps behind the safety car, I think we should be all set for a little bit of racing. Pop that in the bin. When will the race start? We're going to be behind the safety car in 2 minutes and 24 seconds time. Should we quickly run down the starting grid, even though it's been on the screen the entire time that we've been waiting for this Grand Prix to get underway? Lando Norris did qualify in pole position yesterday. He will be starting at the front of the grid. His teammate, Oscar Piastri, just beside him. It's the first time this weekend that Norris has been able to get the better of his teammate. He starts in 2nd spot, though, and it's going to be a real battle, I think, between those 2 McLaren cars. The first time that we're going to properly see a Norris versus Piastri. The team can't do anything about it. They've just got to go all out and see what they can do. Winner takes it all. And we could go into next weekend's Grand Prix with either Oscar Piastri. What is he? 9 points ahead at the minute. So he would be 16 points in the lead. Or we could go into the race with Lando Norris just 2 points behind his teammate if they stay where they are. Charles Leclerc starts in 3rd place with Max Verstappen 4th. If I had to predict it now, I do think that they will swap around. I think Verstappen has the pace on the Ferrari this weekend. Charles Leclerc is struggling to really deal with the pace of the McLarens and Max yesterday in the sprint. So I would argue that it's likely those two will swap around. Albon versus Russell, similar kind of situation. Albon, as much as that is a stunning qualifying lap from him to start in 5th place. George Russell and that Mercedes car should really have the pace to get in front of that Williams. Yuki Tsunoda, stunning Grand Prix qualifying from him yesterday. The first time he's really looked on top of that Red Bull car for an entire lap, you could argue. Yuki Tsunoda starts in 7th place, and it's a lovely little gaggle of Red Bull powered cars. Tsunoda, Hadjar, Lawson all starting in a little trio, 7th, 8th and 9th. Gabriel Bortoleto starting in 10th place just behind. And inside of the point scoring places, an opportunity for Hadjar, Lawson and Bortoleto to get some points in that midfield battle. There is the FIA, 15 seconds is the run. Oh, Sebastian with another $10 super chat. Reigning race, Nico Hülkenberg gets his 2nd podium. This is what I'm saying, right? Imagine he goes back to back. What was it? 249 Grand Prix without a podium. And then suddenly he goes back to back. That would just be absolutely ridiculous. Oh, and also Kelly with a super chat. Everyone's feeling very generous today with the super chats. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for the great commentary as always, even with no racing. Thank you. Appreciate it. Even with no racing, we have continued and soldiered on. We are back racing now, though, ish. We're behind the safety car, and the cars are making their way out of the pits. We're going 239. Cars are on track, though. And the spray is still quite a lot. It's down that back straight, down towards turn 5. It's just still quite a lot of spray is the problem that we've got. But we have got another couple of laps behind the safety car. And hopefully they will be able to gauge what to do moving forwards. By no means does this mean we are definitely racing, guys. Still keep your arms, legs, fingers, toes, and everything you can crossed. Because we are just waiting to see. There's a few bits of the track where it looks absolutely fine. Eau Rouge, after Eau Rouge is still quite bad, says Oscar Piastri on the radio. Some dry patches already from turn 9 to turn 10, but still very wet in areas. Probably dry patch from 9 to 10, turn 10 still wet in the shade. So, wettest place so far, Kemmel Straight, says Lando Norris. So it is just that run, basically, between Eau Rouge and turn 5, where we just need to really judge, is that raceable? And the problem is that's also the highest speed part of the track, right? That is the overtaking opportunity down towards turn 5. So if there's one place you don't want the visibility to be at its absolute worst, it's probably that bit of the track. Is the only argument I think that the stewards might have, and the problem that I think we've got if we are to go racing. But we are running anyway. Safety car just coming towards turn 18. We are going to get at least another lap behind the safety car, guaranteed. We were told that over the radio thanks to Kimi Antonelli, and, well, Bono telling Kimi Antonelli that there was going to be 2 behind the safety car. But yeah, it's fine. It's areas again. It's the pit straight and then up towards turn 5. Actually, the middle part of the lap, so turn 7, 8, 9 isn't too bad. 10 and 11 looks okay. But the water is just slowly displacing. The track is still pretty warm. Track temperature 25.1 degrees Celsius. Air temperature 17.6. So it's not like it's really cold and therefore the water is going to stand. Charles Leclerc being told on the radio, remember you can extend to 20 car lengths. So the Ferrari team thinking maybe Charles Leclerc getting a little too close to the back of Oscar Piastri for their liking. But the McLaren maybe just going a lot slower, like Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri really bunched up behind the safety car at the moment. What country should host a GP? What, that doesn't already? I feel like we had this question yesterday. I miss Malaysia. I really would like Malaysia to be back on the calendar, but I just don't think that would ever happen. Or not going to happen anytime soon, certainly. But we are under the safety car once again. It looked a little bit better going through that first sector this time around. It's still a lot of spray, though. And the problem is... The standing start, the problem that they're going to have is, you know, you get a little bit of separation through turn 1 here, but really that's where the cars are going to be fighting, up the hill and through down towards turn 5. And not until you get to the middle sector do the cars actually start to spread out a touch, and therefore give themselves some room to breathe. So really, you're going to have 20 cars all running up that hill all at the same time, and I don't know if that's something that the stewards would allow with the conditions as they are right now going up the hill. Still no indication that the safety car is coming in, to be fair, so we're going around turn 17 and it hasn't been called in yet, so going to be at least another lap behind the safety car. Remember, we need 11 laps for points to be handed out. Wouldn't be full points or anywhere close to full points, but points nonetheless. Right side of the grid, a lot wetter than the left, he says. Safety car in. Unfortunately not. The safety car goes around once again. So a third lap behind the safety car now. Make the driver radios larger. Unfortunately, I can't. They are just sort of the size that they come. That is what it is. It is what it is. Must be the water. Safety car still running. And again, I was just trying to see there's still quite a lot of spray down that Camel Straight. I mean, you know, it seems like we're going to be running behind the safety car for at least, I'd say at least another couple of laps. I would be surprised if we don't do 5 laps behind the safety car. Just looking at the spray still as they go up the hill. There's a little bit of spray sort of between turn 9 and turn 10, but that's manageable. As Lando said, though, one side of the grid is a lot wetter than the other side of the grid, so that also gives you a massive advantage if you're starting on either the left or the right. Which you don't really want, so they might do a rolling start behind the safety car rather than a standing start. You'd have to see. But the safety car is still running around, has not deemed the track to be drivable enough yet for the cars to go racing. The safety car still not been called in yet, and it's just coming towards the third sector, so we'll be at least one more lap behind the safety car. I think we'll get another couple of laps behind the safety car minimum, to be honest. There's still just, there's a lot of spray, but the spray is going a lot quicker. And the cars making their way down to the bus stop chicane. But the safety car still waiting. Goodness, we're having an argument somewhere in the chat now. Who's been watching since the beginning of the live stream? That is a good question, actually. How long have we been live now? Nearly 2 hours, exactly 2 hours. So we have been live for 2 hours. We're still yet to see a racing lap. Here we go then. Sector 1 once again. Let's have a little look. On board with Max Verstappen. It's much better this time around. It's still not great, though. Once you kind of cut to the wide shot, and you basically can't see Charles Leclerc at all behind the two McLaren cars, that then just makes you go, ooh, not sure. And there you go. Race control, rolling start. I did think that might be the case. Just because one side of the grid is much wetter than the other, and you can't really have that kind of advantage given just because you qualified first rather than second, or fifth rather than sixth, you know. But the safety car still out, but a rolling start has been confirmed by race control. So it will be a rolling start behind the safety car. Just as to when the safety car will be in is the next question, which is a question we still don't know the answer to, unfortunately. But Mylander waiting for the safety car to disappear up the road. Here we go. Lando Norris slowing down at turn 15 then. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. The safety car is going to be coming in, and a rolling start for Lando Norris at the front of the grid. His teammate behind him, Piastri, Leclerc, Verstappen, Albon also inside of the top 5. George Russell starts in 6th place. Tsunoda, Hadjar, Lawson, Bortoletto, our top 10. But the safety car has been given more than enough room by Lando Norris there. The safety car has made its way into the pit lane. And Lando Norris is going to be able to green flag and get underway. So we are going to be racing down towards the bus stop chicane. Lando Norris carrying a bit more speed than his teammate through there. The rooster tails of water spraying off the backs of the cars. Don't think anybody's gone for a move as of yet. And here we go then. Down towards turn 1 they go. Will Oscar Piastri have a little look at his teammate? He has a look up the inside. Does Oscar Piastri? Doesn't go for a move though. Alex Albon still remains ahead of George Russell as well as they come around the corner and up the hill. And Piastri is right underneath the rear wing of Lando Norris. Lando Norris is going to be under pressure from his teammate. They're going to be side by side going up that final part of the straight. Oscar Piastri is side by side with Lando Norris. He's going to get ahead of him, and Piastri's going to be ahead going down in towards turn 5. Piastri takes the lead of this Grand Prix from his teammate. So it is Piastri, Norris, Leclerc, Verstappen, our top 4 right now. Alex Albon in 5th spot. It was a tiny error from Lando Norris that has allowed Piastri just to open up and get underneath the rear wing of his teammate. Now the pressure is on. Can Piastri get himself away from Lando Norris and just be able to get himself outside of reach when it comes to turn 5 once again? It's a really quick middle sector from Oscar Piastri considering the conditions, and Piastri does just seem to have the pace in these conditions. We saw it last time out in Silverstone where Piastri managed to get himself a 14-second lead, remember, before the safety car came out. And that was the safety car that cost Oscar Piastri the victory in Silverstone. Piastri just seems to have it. Oh, and Lando Norris on the radio. Why do I have no pack? Possibly a problem inside of Lando Norris's McLaren car. That would be why Oscar Piastri was able to ridiculously quickly fly past his teammate when they were going up through turn 4 down towards turn 5, because Piastri was alongside Norris before they even really got to the crest of the hill. And Lando Norris saying he used a lot at the safety car restart. It is coming back, but the fastest lap does indeed go to Oscar Piastri, who now leads the race. Of course, one lap of racing completed, and Piastri has led for the majority of it. Lando Norris running up behind his teammate, but not able to really get that close to him. Lando Norris has settled into second spot. Charles Leclerc trying to keep Max Verstappen at bay. He peels off to the left-hand side of the track, does Leclerc, to get a little bit of clean air. Here comes George Russell on Alex Albon then. Russell up the inside of Alex Albon into turn 5, and Albon hasn't got the pace to fight back. George Russell in his Mercedes car up into 5th place. Albon then down into 6th. And can see a few of the cars actually looking for those wet patches as they go around the track, just trying to cool these intermediate tyres down. It's bit of a weird juxtaposition, really. You'd think you wouldn't want to be driving through the wet parts of the track, but these intermediate tyres can very quickly overheat if they haven't got the water underneath them to cool the rubber. Oh, and he has got a little bit wide there, George Russell. Albon maybe with an opportunity to pounce back. Nope. George Russell closes the door just enough, and Albon has to slot back in behind George Russell once again. So we have got Piastri still leading this Grand Prix from Lando Norris. The two McLarens have disappeared up the road a touch. Charles Leclerc 2 seconds behind and under pressure from Verstappen. Verstappen right under the rear wing of the Ferrari as they go through the final sector. It's going to be a battle between the two. We remember to the beginning of 2022, we saw some lovely racing between Leclerc and Verstappen. We're going to see a replay of that here. The Ferrari under pressure from the current world champion, Max Verstappen, looking for those wet parts of the track to cool his tyres down, but wants to be right under the rear wing of Charles Leclerc as they go through turn 1. Hadjar versus Lawson also having a little look at one another. Gabriel Bortoleto still running inside of the points. Piastri then running up the hill down towards turn 5. Our leader goes. Lando Norris not with enough pace to have a little look at him this time. What about Verstappen versus Leclerc? Can Verstappen close into the back of the Scuderia? Not this time around. And Max Verstappen settles into 4th place still. George Russell has remained ahead of Alex Albon. Albon still ahead of Tsunoda. And then it's the pack as it was behind that. Tsunoda, Hadjar, Lawson, Bortoleto running inside of the points. Ocon and Behrman, the two divers just outside. Gasly and Hulkenberg in 13th and 14th. Franco Colapinto running 15th. Carlos Sainz has been able to move up into 16th. Hamilton up into 17th place so far. Lance Stroll has fallen away down to 19th. And Fernando Alonso still running at the back of the pack. Oscar Piastri still around a second or so quicker than his teammate at the moment. The gap staying pretty constant at just over a second. Still no DRS, of course, but Lando Norris will want that slipstream advantage as they go from turn 1 all the way up the hill to turn 5. And also this part of the track here where they run through turn 16, 17 and the harsh braking zone for turn 18. It's lovely to have a slipstream through there just to give yourself a little bit of a boost. Max Verstappen getting that slipstream from Charles Leclerc. George Russell has escaped away from Alex Albon now. Albon nearly 2 seconds adrift of the Mercedes car, but still holding on to 6th place well from Yuki Tsunoda behind. And we're starting to see the elongations of where the cars are falling away. Fernando Alonso versus Lance Stroll. Alonso just about getting ahead of his teammate, and then Stroll coming back at him. Right at the bottom. Oh, and Kimi Antonelli has gone super deep into turn 18. And Kimi Antonelli with a mistake there has had to drop off and is now back into 18th place. Carlos Sainz also. Hamilton up into 16th then. Little bit of a shuffle around at the back of the pack. Here comes Max Verstappen once again on Charles Leclerc. Just looking for any kind of space. But that Ferrari seemingly keeping Max Verstappen at arm's length. That Ferrari with the better straight line speed, it seems. And Verstappen almost in a position where he was keeping Piastri yesterday, where the straight line speed advantage just isn't able. And Lewis Hamilton round the outside of Colapinto, and Lewis Hamilton gets up into 15th spot. That was a very brave move from Lewis Hamilton there inside of the Ferrari. Clearly had enough of racing at the back of the pack this weekend. And now Lewis Hamilton up into 15th spot. Finds a little puddle there to cool his tyres down and starts the hunt for Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg, of course, the driver who cost Lewis Hamilton his streak of podiums in Silverstone. The driver to take that streak away from him. And now the driver ahead of him in very different circumstances this weekend, though, with Lewis Hamilton all the way down in 15th spot now, and Hülkenberg 14th ahead. Not quite the battle that they had for the podium positions last time around. Just having a little look. Starting to dry pretty swiftly, especially through this part of the lap from turn 13 to 17, and then also up the hill to begin with. It's still that very wet, though, as you come towards the DRS zone. DRS, of course, still not activated. Oh, and Hamilton is making moves. He goes for a move on Nico Hülkenberg, and he gets the move done. Lewis is absolutely done with this today. He is flying through the field at the moment inside of his Ferrari car. Up into 14th now, and Pierre Gasly, the next driver in the queue. But every driver he takes just gets a little bit more difficult to get past the next one. Lewis Hamilton then right under the rear wing of Pierre Gasly as they go through turn 4. Down towards turn 5. Hamilton right under the rear wing of the French car. Is he going to go for a move on Gasly this time around? It's closing in. Peels out to the right-hand side. Gasly just closes the door on Lewis Hamilton, though. Hamilton will have to wait at least a little bit longer to get past the Alpine there. Hammer time indeed. Lewis Hamilton is flying. He's the man making moves at the moment. Everybody else has settled in a touch. But Hamilton, absolutely not. He is looking for blood and wanting to get into those point-scoring places. He knows that after the disappointment of both qualifying sessions, he said himself that it wasn't good enough. Now, trying to redeem that qualifying session that he had yesterday. Piastri, a second and a half quicker than Lando Norris at the moment. They have left Charles Leclerc 5 seconds behind. So this is what I said, where I do just think the McLaren cars are going to run away with 1 and 2 here. It's just which one is which. And Lewis Hamilton goes for the move on Pierre Gasly in the middle of the lap. I think Gasly probably wasn't expecting that. Gasly forced wide also has opened the door for Nico Hülkenberg to have a little look at Pierre Gasly as well. I think Gasly is going to be able to just about close the door on the Sauber car, but Hamilton is past, and Hamilton now up into 13th spot. But this is the battle for the lead. Piastri versus Norris, then Leclerc, Verstappen behind, but they have been left a good chunk of time behind. Charles Leclerc being able to keep Verstappen at bay. And Piastri, just the straight to turn 5 is wet. Piastri saying he might be ready for slick tyres at this point. We're only 10 laps into the 44 here in Spa. But Piastri doesn't want to risk it too much. The problem they've also got is, where would they come out if they do pit? It's, 20 plus seconds here for a pit stop in Spa. So if Piastri is the first one to blink and does decide to go onto the slick tyres, he will come out in quite a bit of traffic. He'll come out in and around sort of Ocon, Behrman, Hamilton right now. So doesn't want to go too early because of the strategy aspect of it. But also now Lewis Hamilton making more moves and trying to catch up to the back of Ollie Behrman. Max Verstappen, I thought, was going to be able to get past Charles Leclerc there. I held my breath. They were side by side with one another through turn 10 and 11. But Charles Leclerc just closing the door and still keeping that Red Bull at bay. You can tell that Max Verstappen's pace, though, is much better than Charles Leclerc's. We know that Leclerc was miles off of it in terms of the sprint race yesterday and fell to fourth and a distant fourth. But Verstappen just hasn't been able to make that move yet. And Charles Leclerc frustrating Verstappen still. Goodness gracious me. Oh my God, and they're getting close. Lando Norris continues on then. 2 seconds behind the lead of the Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso is trying to make a move on Lance Stroll right at the back of the pack and gets himself up into 19th spot. The two Aston Martins squabbling over 19th and 20th place as it stands. And Charles Leclerc's gone very wide at turn 1. That's going to open the door to Verstappen. Verstappen tries to get up the inside, but can't quite. But it's going to be right under the rear wing of the Ferrari going up the hill. This is exactly what Max Verstappen has been waiting for here. Max Verstappen underneath the rear wing of the Ferrari. The Ferrari still has the straight line speed advantage, though. Still no DRS to help Max Verstappen out. Just the slipstream, and Verstappen can't get the move done. So even with a mistake from Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen not able to get past. And Charles Leclerc on the radio, my God, my tyres are done. So the intermediate tyres starting to fall away from Leclerc. We could see that through turn 1. Just went so wide into the braking zone of turn 1. Opened the door, touch for Verstappen. They were side by side exiting turn 1. But Charles Leclerc with the straight line speed to get it done and keep ahead through turn 5. And that's where it counts. Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen, though, this squabbling between them playing perfectly into the McLaren's hands. They're now 9 seconds off the lead is Charles Leclerc in less than that number of laps. When did we start racing? Lap 4 of the Grand Prix. So lap 5 was the first lap. So in 6 laps, he's lost 10 seconds to the leader in Oscar Piastri. That is the pace that these McLaren cars have this weekend. They are just in a completely different stratosphere to the rest of the field. But it's about 20-odd seconds to get a pit stop. So if Piastri pitted, he would still come out in and around Tsunoda, Hadjar, Lawson at this point. So still too much traffic to really go, and we know we're entering that phase now as to which driver blinks first. Who is gonna be the one who decides to go for that opportunity and box Lewis Hamilton? I think just popped up on the screen. It was Lewis Hamilton on the screen. Hamilton is the first driver to go for it. Pierre Gasly has also followed him in as well. So has Nico Hülkenberg. So they are going for some slick tyres, you would think, down at Ferrari. And they are indeed. Hamilton is in and out. And it is slick tyres for Lewis Hamilton. Let's see what kind of pace Lewis Hamilton has then compared to the rest of the field, as Gasly, Hülkenberg and Alonso have also followed in Lewis Hamilton's stead. But Hamilton is going to be the first driver out on the slick tyres. Gasly has had a slow stop there, and Hülkenberg has been able to get in front of Pierre Gasly during the pit stops. Alonso not quite as lucky, still at the back of that pack. But let's keep an eye on Lewis Hamilton. I think up here towards the top of the hill for Lewis Hamilton is where I'm expecting it to just be a little bit too wet still. But if Hamilton can hold it and has a good pace through turn 5 and turn 6, maybe it is time for slicks. Hamilton is out for blood. I think so. Hamilton is seeing the fact that he hasn't got a podium finish so far this season. He hasn't got the Silverstone voucher still in hand. He missed out on that podium thanks to Nico Hülkenberg. So he wants a podium before we head to the summer break, I think. And Hamilton has realised that maybe the mixed weather conditions and some slick tyres when he shouldn't really be playing them is the way to go forward. Charles Leclerc is going to box. So Ferrari are happy enough with Hamilton's pace that they want to get him in. Piastri is in. Piastri is into the pits as well. Lando Norris does have to stay out. Of course, they didn't want to double stack those two, but slick tyres are coming. George Russell's in the pits. Albon's in the pits. I think Tsunoda has stayed out. Lawson is in the pits, though, from behind. Hadjar has stayed out from the two RB drivers. Piastri is going to come out. It's going to be close. He needs to get out ahead of Tsunoda here, does Piastri. It's going to be very, very tight indeed. And Piastri is out in front of Tsunoda. That is absolutely huge for the McLaren driver there. Max Verstappen is in. Charles Leclerc is in. We are seeing a big frenzy of pit stops right now. Esteban Ocon, I think, has stayed out. So Tsunoda, Hadjar, and Ocon still on the intermediate tyre. So's Lando Norris as well. Behrman and Colapinto have come into the pits. They're behind. Bortoletto is out. Hamilton has been able to absolutely fly on those slick tyres. No wonder they wanted to get him out as soon as possible. Hamilton is now up into 11th place and behind Liam Lawson. And remember, there's still a few guys on the intermediate tyres ahead that are going to be losing time because Esteban Ocon is now causing a headache for Charles Leclerc. Leclerc, Verstappen, Russell, Albon in a nice little quartet behind. Ooh, is that going to be an unsafe release, though, for Charles Leclerc? Because the Williams had to move out of the way of the Ferrari, so that might cost Charles Leclerc massively. But Lewis Hamilton up into 10th place now, ahead of Liam Lawson, and into another chunk of clean air. Lewis Hamilton is absolutely on it today. He is flying inside of that Ferrari, and this is why it was so important that Piastri got in front of Tsunoda. Look at the gap that Piastri now has to Tsunoda as he's coming through turn 16, 17, as Lando Norris is peeling into the pits. This is going to give Piastri a good advantage over his teammate. Lando Norris saying, what about a hard tyre? We try to go to the end, so they're going to go for a different strategy maybe. And it is a hard compound tyre going onto Lando Norris's car and try and go to the end, they say. It's going to be very tight indeed as, oh my goodness me, Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen and George Russell all try to get past Esteban Ocon at the same point. It is a very, very tight midfield battle there. Oh my goodness. Lando Norris is out of the pits. Let's see what the advantage is going to be for Piastri. It's going to be big. It's nearly 7 seconds, 6.5 seconds. Piastri to Lando Norris. That was a huge, huge advantage for Oscar Piastri going onto the medium tyre straight away. That's why Lando Norris has zigged where Piastri zagged. He's gone onto the hard compound tyre. Leclerc, Verstappen still 3rd and 4th. Russell is now still up into 5th place. Albon has been really, really solid behind in 6th. But Lewis Hamilton is now up into 7th place. Lewis Hamilton is now properly in the mix with those other cars that were, well, battling for the podium places. Lewis Hamilton's certainly not out of the battle for 3rd place here today by gambling, going early and getting it spot on. Oh, and it was a slightly slow stop for Lando Norris as well. That's where those extra few seconds came in. It's the front left tyre just would not go on for Lando Norris. And just took them a little bit longer to get that stuck onto the car. That is very unfortunate for Lando Norris. And that's where those extra couple of seconds came from, because it is now nearly a 9-second lead, 8.5 seconds now for Oscar Piastri at the lead of this Grand Prix. And the hard compound tyre, Lando Norris being told, no hurry here, just keep it on track. Just keep it on track. Hamilton up into 7th. Lawson now up into 8th. Hülkenberg also going early. It was those guys that came into the pits when Hamilton did. Hamilton, Hülkenberg, Gasly, they all have now jumped up in terms of their positioning. Gasly, unfortunate that it was a slow stop for him, hence why Hülkenberg is ahead. Hülkenberg also is now slotted in front of his teammate, and those guys that stayed out, you know, Hadjar, Tsunoda have really lost out. Tsunoda now down in 12th, Hadjar now down in 16th place. Just one extra lap staying out on those intermediates has been absolutely devastating for a couple of those guys that were running in the point scoring positions, and it has completely changed the complexion of this race. Piastri now leading, Lando Norris second behind by 9.5 seconds on the hard compound tyre. And this is the gamble, right? If Lando Norris is going to go all the way to the end, Piastri needs to make up 20 plus seconds throughout the Grand Prix if he is going to swap his tyres at some point. So either Piastri needs to get 20 seconds ahead of Lando Norris now and be able to get himself a pit stop when it matters, or he's going to have to pit just at the right time, and however many seconds he is behind Lando Norris, make that up and also get past his teammate. It's going to be very tight indeed. Lando Norris, the only person to go onto hard compound tyres though. Charles Leclerc, Verstappen, Russell, Albon behind. Leclerc still under pressure from Max Verstappen, but Verstappen now also has to worry about George Russell behind. Russell is a second behind Max Verstappen within that DRS range of the current world champion as well. Albon is holding on to the back of this, but also has to worry about the fact that Lewis Hamilton is right behind him too. DRS is enabled, normal grip conditions have been confirmed, and a lot of lap times are being deleted. You can see the violations there coming through. Hadjar, Sainz, Bortoleto, Gasly, Antonelli, Colapinto all having their little problems and going off the track once or twice. Still no investigations though. No investigations or penalties have been given by the stewards, as we are 16 laps into the 44 of the Belgian Grand Prix, and it feels like it's going to settle in a touch here. Max Verstappen has just set the fastest lap of the race so far, but he is outside of DRS range of Charles Leclerc. Leclerc's been able to very comfortably keep Max Verstappen at bay. Verstappen is now actually more so under pressure from George Russell behind. Russell even having a little look at the Red Bull car as they go down towards turn 5. Lewis Hamilton is also pinned underneath the rear wing of Alex Albon. Alex Albon's rear wing must have like holes in the back of it. The amount of time that people spend staring at the rear wing of Alex Albon's Williams car. It just seems like he is always in that position where one of the front runners is frustrated behind that Williams car. It was George Russell in Monaco and yesterday, and now Lewis Hamilton staring at the back of Alex Albon for this one. Lawson is up into 8th place. Hulkenberg and Bortoleto looking at a double points finish. And Max Verstappen is clipping on the main straight. That is basically where the engine is not giving more, and you end up effectively just standing still whilst everybody else is still accelerating. Oh my goodness me. Would be difficult for Hamilton to overtake Albon? Oh, most certainly. Albon's Williams is like 2 cars wide, I swear to God. He just is so good when it comes to defensive driving as Alex Albon. Knows exactly where to position that Williams every single time he's in this kind of position. In fact, I'd say Alex Albon may be the best defensive driver on the grid. Is that too much to say? Maybe a little bit extravagant from me there. Thank you, Henry, for the super chat. How much trouble are Red Bull in if Max leaves? I mean, a lot. Unfortunately, Yuki Tsunoda shouldn't really be 12th. He stayed out an extra lap. It's whether Yuki Tsunoda made that decision or whether the Red Bull team made that decision. But they did decide to hang Yuki Tsunoda out for an extended period on the intermediate tyres, and that's why, you know, you look at Tsunoda and Hadjar, who were both running in front of Lawson and Bortoleto at the beginning of this Grand Prix, and now down in, well, Hadjar has just lost another place to Antonelli, so 12th and 17th for Tsunoda and Hadjar, despite them starting inside of the points. Lando Norris on the radio. As an update, both cars will try and get to the end. So Piastri is also going to try and get all the way to the end of this Grand Prix on those medium tyres. That is going to be a task for Oscar Piastri, because those medium tyres are effectively softs, remember? Remember, there is a step difference between those two. Lando Norris on the C1 hard compound tyre, Oscar Piastri on the C3 medium tyre. So the C2 not at play this weekend. So if Piastri manages to get all the way to the end on those tyres, that is going to be a very, very impressive performance from the Australian. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out, though. We're on lap 18 of 44 here. Charles Leclerc has done an exceptional job. Max Verstappen now 2 seconds adrift of the Ferrari, and I'll put my hands up. I said I think Charles Leclerc will lose that position to Max Verstappen over the course of 44 laps of racing. Charles Leclerc absolutely putting it together for the Ferrari team right now. Did an exceptional job to keep Max Verstappen at bay on the intermediate tyre stint when Verstappen did look quicker. And now Charles Leclerc is on the on the medium compound tyre. He looks much quicker than Max Verstappen behind.
I'm out of liquid. Ocon is 9 seconds behind Sainz. Ocon was also one of those cars left out to dry, though. Tsunoda, Hadjar, and Ocon, they went for 1 lap too long. And that's the thing. It's such a tight margin. You have to get in early, not too early, but even going 1 lap later, Tsunoda, Hadjar, Ocon, their race are completely thrown just because they went 1 lap later onto the mediums compared to the rest of the field around them. And that's where these races, especially with these kind of conditions, are won and lost. It's where you have to gamble at the perfect time. And Lewis Hamilton, give him his dues. He used his intuition there. Obviously, he's got the team to help him out too. But you have to say, Lewis Hamilton was going incredibly quickly. He advised the team as to when he thought it was ready. Hamilton went first, and that's what's played into his favour. He's jumped all the way up into 7th spot when starting right at the back of the pack, Lewis Hamilton. So a very, very impressive first stint for Lewis Hamilton, and well worth him now being up into the point-scoring places. Just imagine what he could have done if he qualified well. But that's another thing for another day. Albon, though, keeping Lewis Hamilton at bay for now. And as I say, that Williams car is an absolute nightmare to try and get past, isn't it? And Hamilton, the next driver to try and give it a go. Liam Lawson, though, is 8 seconds adrift of Lewis Hamilton. Just goes to show the gaps are starting to open up. We've got a real gap at the front. Lando Norris still 8.5 seconds adrift from his teammate. Then another nearly 6 seconds to Charles Leclerc in third. So even though they are the top 3 and they might stand on the podium together later, they are not going to finish in the same stratosphere. Max Verstappen is down in 4th spot. Russell in 5th. A little bit more of a compact race between those. Verstappen, though, is being left behind a little bit by Charles Leclerc here. Russell also now 2 seconds adrift. Albon falling away. I think we're just starting to see a little bit of the dirty air factor playing, and these cars having to hold onto their tyres that little bit more. They're just settling in. And Bortoleto arguing that he is faster than his teammate, and Gabriel saying on the radio, look, Hulkenberg just needs to let me go here. Hulkenberg holding on to it for now. They are 9th and 10th in the Stake Sauber team, and I think Sauber, this is going to test them. Are they going to ask Nico Hulkenberg, the man who got them a podium last time out, and let's face it, realistic number 1 of the team, considering the points that he's got compared to Bortoleto this season, are they going to tell him to move aside and Gabriel Bortoleto to go through? Bortoleto still within DRS range of his teammate. And Hulkenberg on the radio is indeed being told, swap positions turn 5. Let's stay on board then with Gabriel Bortoleto and see if that swap does take place. Hulkenberg and Bortoleto coming down the Kemmel straight now. Bortoleto hopefully being given that position, and is very kindly given that position by Nico Hulkenberg. The Brazilian on the radio had to ask for it, but he did eventually get his way. Kimi Antonelli also trying to make moves at the back of the pack. And Antonelli ahead of Colapinto. Let's see. Fernando Alonso is 3 seconds up the road from Kimi Antonelli. So Antonelli at least making minor moves towards the back end of the grid. He's up into 15th place, the Italian. Oscar Piastri still leads by 8 seconds. Would I wear a Ferrari shirt while streaming Zambor? I have predicted it. I wore a Red Bull shirt during the sprint race. Max Verstappen won. Put the McLaren shirt back on for qualifying. McLaren was at the top. Here's the way. Piastri, Norris, Leclerc are top 3. Verstappen behind. And everyone's just settling in a little bit. Gabriel Bortoleto starting to fly now that he's been released by his teammate. Can Bortoleto close in on Liam Lawson? Bortoleto looking for another 8th place finish to add to his 8th place finish in Austria, possibly. We are looking I was just trying to see if Gabriel Bortoleto is quicker than Lawson. He is by a substantial margin. Bortoleto, nearly 4 tenths of a second quicker than Liam Lawson on that last lap. Come on, Gabby. Let's see it. Isaac Hadjar is in and back out again. So Isaac Hadjar had enough there and deciding that he wants to go for it now. Oof. Colapinto under pressure from Lance Stroll now as well. Isn't quite there yet. Bortoleto is 2 seconds faster than Hulk. I mean, that's why they eventually did the swap. Gabriel Bortoleto was quite right. He is quicker than his teammate. Piastri. Feel a little bit of deg already. Bit tough to get to the end. So Piastri saying unlikely to be able to get to the end of the race on this medium tyre is the way I read that. We are halfway through. 22 laps of 44 will have been completed by Oscar Piastri when he gets to the end of this one. Just going down towards turn 5 on your screens now. Will Piastri pit at some point? The team is saying we'd like to, not pit if possible. Piastri on the other side of things is saying, look, guys, not sure these tyres are going to hold on for the entirety of that. And it's a tricky one, really, because if he does pit, he obviously slots in behind his teammate and will have to overtake Lando Norris. If he doesn't pit, those tyres are going to go away from him quicker than Lando Norris's tyres are going to go away from him anyway. And that does mean that Norris is likely to close that 8-second gap to him. It's just whether that 8-second gap can close enough, and then Lando Norris can also get the move done. So it is by far and away done and dusted. The two strategies of the McLarens are going to converge as we get towards the end of this Grand Prix. So maybe if you need a snack, go and grab it now, because it is going to be all chaos towards the end of these 44 laps, as Lance Stroll also goes for a move on Colapinto, and Colapinto has to oblige and give Lance Stroll 16th place. And here we are then. What's better, pizza or burgers? Pizza. Not even close. Pizza by a mile. Charles Leclerc is 7, nearly 8 seconds off the back of Lando Norris, 16 seconds off Piastri. So if Piastri does pit, it's likely that by the time he needs to pit, he will come out behind Lando Norris at least. It's not like Piastri is going to have to deal with, Verstappen and Leclerc and Russell as well or anything like that. So if Piastri does decide to pit, he will likely come out with just his teammate ahead of him. The problem is, do you want to go absolutely hell for leather? Or do you want to try and gamble and go all the way to the end on the mediums? And that's what Piastri's got to deal with at this point, because he's keeping Lando Norris at 8 seconds for now. Or 8.5 seconds for now. But he's going to have to make up another 12 plus seconds at some point in the race, right? That's what we're looking at. If he pits, he needs to make up another 12 seconds to ensure that he is still close enough to Lando Norris towards the end of the race that he can make a move and possibly get to the top spot of this Grand Prix. I think it is just... If Piastri has the pace that I think he does, I think he could just go for it, But I suppose he's eking it out a little bit, holding on to the mediums just a touch longer. But it's going to be very, very tight if he doesn't go soon, I would say. It's only 21 laps, and he's got to make up 12 seconds, Subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for subscribing. Appreciate it. You can subscribe. You can follow over on Twitch. I know some people are watching on Twitch today. It's the first race that we've done on Twitch. Hope it's going well. Maybe. You can follow over on there as well. The tyre age counter is frozen. Oh yeah, it is. Unfortunately, there is nothing I can do about that. That is down to the end of things at trackside with multi-viewer. I'll try and maybe reset it in a moment. But I think that is just to their end because it's frozen on both screens. Who's driver of the day? We've got 21 laps left. Don't start picking driver of the day yet. How long will the hards will last until the end. The hards will definitely last until the end. It's just whether or not the mediums will last until the end. And whether or not the mediums will start to fall away. Lando Norris is still at that 8-second gap to his teammate. Don't know how you're going to predict. Antonelli has just gone quickest of anybody through the first sector. Charles Leclerc has also done a stunning job in third place to be able to keep Verstappen at bay and now also escape away from Max Verstappen as well. George Russell is in 5th. Albon down into 6th place. They've swapped since the start. Hamilton, though, still frustrated and behind Alex Albon. Was really quick on the intermediate tyre, Lewis Hamilton. But actually, since swapping onto the mediums, Alex Albon has been more than capable of keeping Lewis Hamilton in 7th spot. Lawson in 8th, Bortoletto in 9th. Bortoletto still quicker than his teammate by a considerable margin, but hasn't been able to close that gap to Liam Lawson at all. And then Nico Hulkenberg is also up into 10th spot, but going a little bit slower than his teammate, so unlikely to close that gap. Gasly in 11th, Tsunoda down in 12th after starting in the points. And Tsunoda, Hadjar, Ocon, they'll all be looking at that and going, why did we stay out that extra lap? Why did we stay out that one extra lap on the intermediate tyres? Completely killed their chances of doing anything in this Grand Prix. Medium is cooked here after a couple of laps. I mean, Piastri's still going okay. Isaac Hadjar has switched onto the hard compound tyre, maybe predicting that some of those medium tyre runners in front of him will have to swap at some point. So Hadjar has gambled on the clean air being in his favour rather than sitting in the mix because he came out, so what was it, 17th, 18th spot. Lando new fastest lap. Let's go. Yeah, he was a little bit quicker than Piastri there. 0.3 of a second quicker than Oscar Piastri in that last lap. I think this tells us that Piastri is going for the strategy of staying and trying to go all the way to the end on this tyre, it feels like. Because his lap times are starting to sort of creep towards Lando Norris and go in Lando Norris's favour, which means he is probably trying to hold on to his medium tyres that little bit longer, just trying not to take the life out of them yet. Wear a Ferrari shirt during Zandvoort? I think I said this. I don't have a Ferrari shirt. I don't own one. Hey, if you want to super chat enough money for me to go and buy a Ferrari shirt, sure thing. I don't have that kind of excess income at this point in my life. What's my prediction? I think Piastri is... Oh, Lando Norris actually lost a little bit of time there to Piastri. Has Lando made a little bit of a mistake? Or has Piastri decided, actually, you know what, it's time to step on the gas here? Because Lando Norris has just gone from just within 8 seconds to now over 9 seconds away from Piastri. So let's look at Piastri's lap time. He's coming across the start-finish line now. And his lap time He's a bit better. Yeah, I guess substantially better. Lando Norris comes across the line, 147.6. So Piastri flying, but it feels more like Norris has made a mistake there because he's into the 147s, where Leclerc's 146 from Verstappen as well. So Lando Norris possibly... it was at turn 10. Track limits, turn 10, Lando Norris, there you go. He must have run wide there. He's lost a couple of seconds, or a second and a bit, to Oscar Piastri. Because, yeah, lap time deleted from Lando means that he must have gone off the white lines round turn 10 through 11. That is a shame, because Lando Norris has thrown away a little bit of a time there, which is not what you want to see. Piastri now also increasing that gap still. Esteban Ocon making a move on Carlos Sainz as well. So Ocon now up ahead of Carlos Sainz as they go around turn 1 together. I know, sorry, Carlos Sainz pitted. Carlos Sainz pitted. I was wondering where Sainz was in the picture. But Sainz has pitted once again. Hard compound tyres for Carlos Sainz. And therefore, Carlos Sainz 19th. Isaac Hadjar, that hasn't played into his favour at all, has it? Hadjar pitted early for those hards and has still come out behind Carlos Sainz after Sainz pitted. Antonelli making a move. Little replay of his move on Fernando Alonso. He has caught up to the back of the Spaniard and is now ahead of Fernando Alonso as well. Up into 14th spot goes Kimi Antonelli. So Lando Norris, 9.2 seconds off the lead. Charles Leclerc then another 8.5 seconds. 2.5 seconds to Max Verstappen. 5.5 seconds to George Russell behind. Albon 3 seconds behind. Hamilton is the closest within the top 10. He's 1.2 seconds off Albon and closing, actually. A couple of attempts quicker, Lewis Hamilton on the last lap compared to Alex Albon. Lawson then 10 seconds adrift of that. Bortoletto a second and a half still. And now 5 seconds ahead of his teammate. So the shuffle around at Stakes Sauber more than worth, because Bortoletto is certainly quicker than Nico Hülkenberg here this weekend in terms of this race pace that he's got. Outqualified his teammate as well, and Bortoletto just started to flex his muscles. Formula 3 and Formula 2 champion, of course. It's been a little bit underwhelming, you could maybe argue, over the first half of this season. I think you guys gave him a C grade when it came to our grading of the drivers. If you could help me out and watch that video, that would be absolutely amazing. 700 odd people in the chat. If we could get that another 700 views, just click the link in the description down below, open it up in another tab, you know, play that video all the way through. That would be very kind of you. As we have got 16 laps left to run here in Spa-Francorchamps. Kimi Antonelli is on a tear now as well. Decided that now or never is the time inside of that Mercedes car. Ollie Behrman in 13th spot is next up for Kimi Antonelli. He's closed in to win half a second of Ollie Behrman as well. Behrman and Ocon will be frustrated. It looked like they were going to go on for a very good weekend, but both of them now way adrift of the point scoring places after a double points finish for both of the Haas drivers in the sprint race. Lando Norris with a new fastest lap of the race, though. 1:45.9. Closes in on his teammate pretty substantially there. 0.5 of a second. And basically, Piastri is now being asked the question. 8.5 seconds the gap. 16 laps left to go. So Lando Norris would have to be exactly half a second quicker than his teammate to close in on Piastri just in time for the end of the Grand Prix. So Piastri now has to rebuttal and is holding on to those medium tyres. Are the green striped sections DRS zones? Yes, they are indeed. So there's a DRS zone between turn 19 and turn 1, then the longer DRS zone between turn 4 and turn 5. Well, once you get at the top of the hill, actually. Let's see. Franco Colapinto has come into the pits also. Onto the medium tyre. Lando Norris has once again taken a couple attempts out of Oscar Piastri, though. 146.1 from Piastri. Let's have a little look. 146 dead from Lando Norris. So it's only another couple attempts, and that is not enough. Unfortunately, 0.2 of a second with 15 laps left to go doesn't add up to 8.5 seconds. So actually, I think unless something dramatic happens, Oscar Piastri should be just about able to hold on here. Charles Leclerc did an exceptional job in the first stint. Yeah, I agree. Really good defensive job. It's just whether or not that Ferrari's tyres are going to hold on long enough. Max Verstappen in 4th spot behind. And George Russell was looking to have a little battle with Verstappen at one point, but just feels like that Mercedes car is not quite at the level this weekend. Lewis Hamilton has DRS range with Alex Albon, but is still burrowing a hole into the rear wing of that Williams with his eyes. He is just looking at that Atlassian logo. I'm sure he will see that in his dreams later on today. Lewis Hamilton, he'll close his eyes and be able to draw you a picture of the rear wing of that Williams car. Liam Lawson still in 8th spot. Great drive from Lawson. Pitted perfectly as well. Did a really good job, Liam Lawson, to pit when he did. You know, you look at Tsunoda and Hadjar were in and around that battle with him. Bortoleto just behind as well. And Hadjar and Tsunoda are both fallen off because they went an extra lap on the intermediate tyres. Lawson was the one who went earlier. And it's played into his favour. Lawson is still inside of the points where the other Red Bull cars have fallen away. Bortoleto and Hülkenberg looking for a double point scoring finish for Stakes Sauber. This would be Nico Hülkenberg's 5th point scoring finish in a row, by the way. We've had 5 races since that upgrade in Spain and 5 point scoring finishes from Nico Hülkenberg. It's pretty impressive from the German driver. Gabriel Bortoleto, though, quicker than his teammate this weekend. Gasly in 11th spot, Tsunoda in 12th, Behrman 13th, Antonelli 14th at the moment, but hunting down the back of Ollie Behrman's car. The problem is we've got a bit of a DRS train behind Pierre Gasly at the moment. You can see Gasly, Tsunoda, Behrman, Antonelli all really tightly packed together. And Antonelli has had enough of it. Antonelli pits. So Antonelli realizing that his pace is better, but he's just going to get stuck behind this DRS train behind the Alpine. So Antonelli has enough of it. Pits. Lance Stroll comes back past him. So will Esteban Ocon. Will Fernando Alonso get back past Kimi Antonelli? Let's keep an eye on it. Antonelli a 2.3 second stop. Very solid. Fernando Alonso just going down towards turn 1. You do get to kind of cut turn 1 a little bit, though, if you are pitting. And Antonelli does indeed get out just ahead of Fernando Alonso. So Antonelli, let's see what kind of pace he's got on some fresh medium tyres. Piastri needs to wait and box for softs. Ooh, that would not be the play, I don't think. He would need to be very, very quick at this point. Problem is, if Piastri pits now, he would still come out behind Charles Leclerc. The Leclerc-Verstappen have actually done a pretty good job at holding on. Like, if Piastri wanted to pit, he kind of needed to really go for it 5, 6, 7 laps ago now. So I think Piastri is playing the long game and playing the I'm going to go all the way to the end. I suppose, in one sense, he is putting the ball in Lando Norris's court, right? He's saying, look, Lando, you're the one that needs to push now. I've got track position. I'm not going to pit and, you know, give you track position. So Piastri is putting it into Lando Norris's court and going, what can you do? Putting the pressure on him. And Lando Norris is still 8 seconds behind with 13 laps left to play. So Piastri is more than comfortable enough. Needs a second a lap or so, does Lando Norris, really, to be within touching distance. How did Lewis climb up the ladder? Lewis just absolutely perfectly got the pit stop right for intermediates onto slicks. He was the first driver to go onto the slick tyre, and he nailed the timing of it. Lewis Hamilton was really quick on the intermediate tyres as well, it has to be fair. Like, he was absolutely flying, but then got the pit stop perfect. And yeah, that's how Lewis Hamilton managed to gain his position up in 7th place. No rain at the moment. For those of you guys asking if there's any more rain to come towards the end of this Grand Prix, doesn't look so. We've got 12 laps left of racing, 55 minutes on the clock. So even if there was rain, that clock would be able to stop for up to an hour before it would then continue on again. But Oscar Piastri now 7.7 seconds behind Norris. Norris 0.4 of a second quicker than his teammate last lap. Again, though, 0.4 of a second is not enough. It is really looking like Lando Norris needs to step on the gas pedal if he wants to get himself into a position where he's even going to be close to Piastri. So Piastri is absolutely doing it and doing exactly what he needs to do. You know, we're going to assume as well, Piastri's probably holding onto his tyres a touch, you know. Piastri is not absolutely rinsing those tyres for everything that they have, and will have a little bit to defend against Lando Norris if Norris does close that gap. Norris 7.7 seconds. As I say, 12 laps left to go, though. It's the middle part of the lap, though, that Lando Norris will be looking at. That's where the grip really counts. Nico Hülkenberg has decided to pit from inside of the point-scoring places as well. So Hülkenberg will come out ahead of Ocon, and that's why they've pitted when they did at Stake Sauber. Hülkenberg comes out into a nice little bit of clean air there. A very nice stop from the Stake Sauber team as well. Stroll, Behrman, Tsunoda, Gasly in front. And Piastri happy to go to the end on this tyre. So Oscar Piastri, the degradation is as expected. And Piastri happy to go to the end of the race on this tyre. Lando is indeed now closing the gap, though. It was 0.6 of a second from Lando Norris. That's much better. Lando Norris still needs a little bit more, though. 7 seconds. 7.5 seconds, really, for 11 laps. Should we do the maths very quickly? So if Lando Norris is 8 seconds over 11 laps, 0.7 of a second quicker per lap. So Lando Norris needs to be 0.7 of a second quicker per lap compared to Oscar Piastri. So still not quite there, right? So 0.6 was quicker. It's going to be close. How many laps has Piastri done on those mediums? I think it's up to 20 now. 20 laps? Yeah, problem. I don't know why the lap times or the lap counter, only for those guys that are on the second set of tyres, has decided to freeze. Apologies about that, but nothing I can do from my end, unfortunately. And Lando Norris. Oh, it's a big lock up for Lando Norris into turn 1. And that'll lose him half a second there. So Lando Norris has thrown away at least a second or two. He went wide at turn 10. He's now gone wide at turn 1. And I think this is the thing, right? Piastri, even under the pressure, is just delivering those lap times, is cool, calm, collected inside of that helmet. Hülkenberg looks at Esteban Ocon and moves up into 14th spot. Hülkenberg back to where he was before. And we're looking at these medium tyres and expecting them to go off. But those guys that swapped onto the hards, you're looking at Carlos Sainz, Franco Colapinto came in for a second stop, Isaac Hadjar came in for a second stop, and you're going, clearly wasn't the right choice from them. Intermediates onto mediums seems to be good enough to get you to the end as long as you don't ruin these tyres. Lando Norris being told on the radio, you're naturally quicker. Don't push the tyres as hard as you have been. And I think they are starting to see that the degradation on the hard compound tyre is also starting to affect Lando, and that's why Lando has made a couple of mistakes. Lando went wide at turn 10. Just last lap went wide at turn 1 as well. So is now still 8 seconds adrift. Needs a second a lap effectively at this point, Lando Norris. 8 seconds adrift, 10 laps left to play. 9 laps once we get to the start-finish line as Oscar Piastri is going towards turn 16 and 17 and catching the back of Isaac Hadjar, actually, who is in last place. Piastri is hoping that Hadjar will just move out of the way. Hadjar not really fighting for anything. But it is, unfortunately, for Lando Norris, looking like those couple of errors are going to cost him pretty dearly overall. And Ocon forces Kimi Antonelli round the outside of turn 5. And Ocon is going to fight back through turn 6 and turn 7. Ocon with a lovely little battle with Kimi Antonelli there. Turn 5, 6, and 7. Antonelli got ahead around the outside of turn 5, but then Ocon managing to get back ahead through turn 6 and 7. Great move from Antonelli, then rebustled by Esteban Ocon as well. Kimi Antonelli. Oh, he just couldn't quite get the exit of 6 right because he went around the outside of turn 5, just lost that little bit of edge through turn 6, and that's where Ocon had that additional bit of speed. Black and white flag for Carlos Sainz for track limits as well. Carlos Sainz gets his 3rd track limits violation. No investigations or penalties throughout this entire Grand Prix either, by the way. Still no investigations at all. Can we get the current championship positions? You can indeed, if you would like. Oscar Piastri still leading the championship by a significant margin and increasing that lead up to 16 points going into the final race before the summer break. He'll be on 266 to Lando Norris's 250. Pierre Gasly, the only driver that would move up a position as it's... Oh, no, sorry. Liam Lawson. Apologies. Gasly would move up a position into 12th with an additional point because he has a better finish than Lance Stroll. So Stroll will go down to 13th, even though it'd be on 20 points apiece. And Liam Lawson would move up in front of Alonso and Sainz because, again, they'd all be on 16 points, but Liam Lawson with the better overall, the better finish. So has a higher finish to his name throughout the season. No change in the constructor standings. McLaren, 43 points to them would keep them miles ahead, more than double the points of Ferrari in second spot. Ferrari would actually gain the most points of the 2 constructors behind. Mercedes and Red Bull would gain 10 points and 12 points apiece. Albon, those 8 points, putting Williams on 70 and puts them 27 points ahead of Sauber, who would be a couple of points ahead of Racing Bulls, even with Racing Bulls getting 4 points thanks to Liam Lawson. So that's how the championship would be. Lando Norris has been a bit quicker once again, has now closed that gap once more. It's 6.5 seconds now. But Lando Norris still only 0.6 of a second quicker than Oscar Piastri last lap. So Piastri's got some time in hand. Lando, why hard? Well, they decided to go on the hards thinking that everybody who went onto the mediums would actually need to pit. Because, got to remember, the medium tyre this weekend is actually the soft. So the hard compound tyre is the C1. There is no C2 available. And then a C3 is the medium tyre. So it's effectively what we would normally have as the soft, and then the soft is basically an ultra soft. But even with that, the medium tyre's degradation has not been high enough to actually make any difference in this Grand Prix, which then makes me wonder, when we come to Hungary, Pirelli just going to go crazy. Like the hard is like the C1, and then they do like the C3 medium, but then they do like the C5 soft or something ridiculous. Like they'd put just 3 steps between all of the tires. Absolutely throw it to the wall. Lando Norris, another 0.7 of a second quicker than Oscar Piastri, but 7 laps left to go and still 6 seconds the gap. Nico Hulkenberg pitting for a second time. Has that played against him? Hulkenberg's caught out to the back of Stroll, but he's going to have to get past Gasly, Tsunoda, Behrman. And Gasly, Tsunoda, Behrman have been in this horrible, like, DRS train. Kimi Antonelli also pitted whilst he was behind. It feels like those guys that pitted for a second time, as much as they might have needed it, maybe Hulkenberg had absolutely rinsed his tyres and Antonelli the same, but those guys that pitted for a second time, it really has cost them. Because everybody else running around. Piastri has caught the back of Isaac Hadjar as well. This is... Oh, and Charles Leclerc, a big lock-up in the Ferrari, which has cost him a good chunk of time and actually put Max Verstappen, well, not quite within DRS range, but Verstappen will be looking at that mistake from Charles Leclerc and thinking, maybe, just maybe, there's a podium position up for grabs here. Maybe I'll be proved right. That was my prediction. I thought it would be the two McLarens followed by Max Verstappen at the top three. Not a very exciting prediction, I will say. And Leclerc on the radio, just being asked to give a little bit of space from the Ferrari engineers. And Charles Leclerc needing to concentrate for these final 6 laps to keep Max Verstappen at bay. Classic Russell does nothing. Yeah, Russell. The problem is Russell qualifies exactly where the Mercedes car kind of is. So usually, you know, he's within a position or two of the absolute maximum that Mercedes car has. And then in the race, he gets into that position, which is the maximum that the Mercedes car has, and then just stays there because there's not much else he can do, right? He is nowhere near the pace of the cars in front. Like, the Mercedes car is the 4th fastest car this weekend by a considerable margin. So Russell has done well in that, you know, he's being beaten by the cars he should be beaten by, and he's being beaten by none of the cars that he shouldn't be beaten by. Russell doing exactly par. He's doing perfectly for what that Mercedes has. And that's why, yeah, unfortunately, we don't really get to see George Russell very much. Doesn't really do too much throughout these Grand Prix at the moment. Can anyone at the track throw a banana peel at Piastri? It is closing. The gap is still closing. It is 5 seconds now, Oscar Piastri to Lando Norris. But again, needs a second a lap, really, does Lando Norris. And it was 7 tenths of a second last time around. So 4.7 seconds is the gap. 6 laps left to go. Now going to turn to 5 laps left to go. So let's have a look. 5 laps left to go and 5 seconds, effectively. So Lando Norris needs a second a lap still, and unfortunately, Oscar Piastri has made it past Isaac Hadjar in that mix. So Lando Norris also then has to deal with the RB of Isaac Hadjar, who is in a complete no man's land, which I feel sorry for Isaac Hadjar. They just got their strategy wrong. They put him on the intermediate tyres, and then they also pitted him for a second time, which was just an absolutely dreadful decision. He should really be where Liam Lawson is right now. Lawson up in 8th spot. And 4 points on the board for the New Zealander. Esteban Ocon under pressure from Kimi Antonelli once more. Those two have had a real battle with one another down there for 15th and 16th place. But it is Oscar Piastri still leading. 5 laps left, 4.5 laps left, and 5 seconds still the gap. Lando Norris hasn't been able to close in at all because he's in the dirty air of Isaac Hadjar this lap. And Isaac Hadjar being told on the radio, there are cells of rain around the track. Unlikely to come, though. And to be honest, Isaac Hadjar is so far adrift, even if it does start to rain. Even if there's an earthquake, I think Isaac Hadjar will still finish in last. It is not looking like his day whatsoever. We haven't really had the chaos of a mixed conditions race, have we? Everybody did very well transitioning from the intermediates to the slick tyres. Nobody really got it wrong. Nobody went onto slicks and then spun it into the gravel or anything, but also nobody waited way too long on the inters to cause themselves an issue. So it just feels like everything has kind of played out very calmly in Spa, even though we had to wait an extra 2 hours for the start of the Grand Prix. But, you know, is what it is. Sometimes the way that these races run, and Oscar Piastri has run it perfectly. Piastri on the medium tyre, still got very, very good pace. Lando Norris absolutely rinsing that McLaren car for everything that it's got, but not enough, unfortunately, inside of that McLaren car, even with the extra life in the tyres that Lando Norris will have at this point in the Grand Prix. And Antonelli once again trying to get past Esteban Ocon, but Ocon saying no. So with 3 laps left to go, once Oscar Piastri finishes this lap, we've got Piastri 3.8 seconds ahead of Lando Norris. Isaac Hadjar is not in 3rd spot. He is down in 20th, but has now been lapped by the 2 McLarens. Charles Leclerc is still running in 3rd. He is a second ahead of Verstappen, though, so still maybe a battle for 3rd to play out between those two. George Russell running completely on his own in 5th place. Albon is still holding Hamilton, as he has been since Hamilton swapped onto the medium tyres. Lawson then in 8th spot. Bortoletto has driven a very good race in 9th. Shame that he hasn't been able to catch up to the back of Lawson, really. I think that would have been a very nice battle to see, but Lawson with more than enough space to keep the rookie at arm's length. And Pierre Gasly is currently driving an absolute brilliant race to a 10th place finish. Nico Hülkenberg decided to pit, has only just caught up to the back of that DRS train. Tsunoda and Behrman still ahead of him. So Hülkenberg up into 10th is also the other one that we can keep a little eye on. But he's going to have a task ahead of him. He's got to get past Behrman, Tsunoda and Gasly. So 3 cars in as many laps. Why Hulk pitted? Not sure. Maybe he'd absolutely ruined those tyres, but yeah, it feels like a bit of a weird one for them to do. I mean, he's more than made up that time, but he's not just had to make up that time. He's now also got 3 laps left to make 3 moves. So Hülkenberg needs to be pinpoint perfect over these last 3 laps if he's going to get Behrman, Tsunoda and Gasly to get back up into 10th place. Lando Norris. Interesting that those couple of errors as well, you know, the turn 10 where he lost sort of 6-7 tenths and turn 1 where he lost 6-7 tenths. He would be, 2 seconds behind Piastri now with 3 laps left to go. So it would be more of a opportunity for Norris, but I just don't think that Lando Norris is going to have more than capable of getting that. The gap, 3 seconds still when they cross the line. 2 laps left to go for the 2 McLarens and 3 laps left to go for Lando, and he's locked up into turn 1 as well. It's locked up into turn 1. A 3rd error from Lando Norris means that he has now lost another second to Oscar Piastri, and that is all but over. Lando Norris is going to be second to Oscar Piastri. Unfortunately, Lando Norris, too many little errors. Nothing massive, nothing egregious, but a couple of little errors into turn 1, a little error at turn 10. And that's just given Oscar Piastri just enough breathing room to be very, very comfortable at the end of this Grand Prix. Nico Hülkenberg wasn't able to get past Gabriel Bortoletto on the straights either, so now needs to get past Behrman, Tsunoda, Gasly in 2 laps. And it's 3 drivers to do, so I think Pierre Gasly might just have done enough to get himself a 10th place finish. It would be so frustrating for Yuki Tsunoda behind. Tsunoda should really be in the points, but waited that extra lap on the intermediate tyres, and Lando and Tsunoda therefore losing out because of that. And I think Lando Norris has kind of settled into the fact that he's not going to be able to catch his teammate. The gap now 5 seconds between them, and Norris no longer pushing that car to its absolute limits. Piastri is indeed going to win at Spa. Final lap for him as he comes across the start-finish line. He's 1 lap away from another victory this season and a 16-point gap in the championship to his teammate. Going into Hungary, he could make that a win's worth of points if he wins the Hungarian Grand Prix as well. Piastri's just done a perfect job, hasn't he? Piastri got that move done on Lando Norris, took the lead early on after the safety car start that we had. Kind of forget that, right? Lando Norris started this race in the lead. Piastri took the advantage, and Piastri got the slipstream underneath Lando Norris's rear wing. It was a little mistake at turn 1 from Lando Norris that opened the door for Piastri to do that, remember? Piastri doing it perfectly. Got that move done on, well, first lap of racing we had. And then Piastri since then has been cool, calm, and collected. There is just nothing that can get underneath the helmet of Oscar Piastri, is there? He is so slick inside of that McLaren car. And any kind of pressure that is in front of him, he just deals with it. Oscar Piastri coming around the final sector then has taking it a little bit off the gas. Lando Norris is going to finish just over 4 seconds behind his teammate. And they are miles ahead of the rest. Charles Leclerc is going to finish in 3rd, over 20 seconds off the lead of this Grand Prix. Unfortunately, it did turn into sort of tyre-saving Grand Prix in Belgium, didn't it? As Oscar Piastri takes the checkered flag and wins the Belgian Grand Prix. Lando Norris's teammate in 2nd spot behind. And that is an incredible McLaren dominant win there. Both of the McLarens comfortably ahead of the rest. Charles Leclerc, take a bow. That is a stunning race from Leclerc. He gets himself into 3rd spot ahead of Max Verstappen in 4th. Verstappen kept at arm's length throughout that first stint. And then Charles Leclerc more than capable of doing enough to get that 3rd place finish. Russell, Albon, and Hamilton finish in that order behind. Russell in 5th spot. Again, miles adrift from the top 4, but miles ahead of Alex Albon. Albon did a sublime job too to keep Lewis Hamilton at bay. Hamilton have to sing his praises a touch because Hamilton did a great job on the intermediates and getting onto those slick tyres early to gain those positions. Liam Lawson also really solid job inside of the RB to finish in 8th place. Gabriel Bortoleto finishes in 9th. And we have to praise Pierre Gasly there. Gasly finishes 10th and holds off the rest of the midfield. There was a big DRS train behind Pierre Gasly for that entire Grand Prix. Yuki Tsunoda went for a move on Gasly at the end there, hence why he's dropped down a couple of positions behind Behrman and Hulkenberg. I mean, it was sort of a win if you win, lose not really a loss. Like, might as well have gone for the position there, Tsunoda, and did, but ended up 13th. Stroll 14th. Esteban Ocon held off Antonelli to finish 15th. Antonelli 16th. Fernando Alonso in 17th place. Sainz, Colapinto, and Isaac Hadjar. Probably the one race of the season so far that Isaac Hadjar will really want to forget. Well, maybe apart from Australia as well, but definitely one of Hadjar's more egregious races at the back of the pack there. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you are new to the channel, hit that like button. If you're watching on YouTube, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the link and go and follow me over on Twitch as well. I'm doing these race live streams plus some additional streams over on Twitch. So if you could follow on Twitch, that would be absolutely amazing. But thank you for all of the support. Thank you for you guys that are watching on Twitch. The first time that we've done one of these streams over on Twitch, I think we hit like 20, 25 viewers, which considering it's the first time ever, I will absolutely take. But that is a stunning drive from Oscar Piastri to get him a 16-point championship lead and put the pressure back on Lando Norris once more. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe. I'm going to be live in a moment for the members. We'll have a quick chat about that over in the members-only live stream. Not too much to talk about, I don't think, but we'll talk about it nonetheless, and I will see you all in a week's time for the Hungarian Grand Prix.